Yes, but what I can say is, of course, for us, it's not to prescribe to individual Afrikaners what they can do. We respect people's personal decisions, and there might be that want to accept this offer. As AfriForum, we are saying we are committed to the continent of Africa. Afrikaners developed as a people on the continent of Africa. Dutch and French and German people came here, but they did not stay German people, Dutch people and French people. It became a new people, the Afrikaner people, that is bound to African soil. And our worry is that one would not survive as Afrikaners elsewhere, anywhere else in the world. And that is why we are determined to stay here, that we are determined to build relationships built on mutual recognition and respect with other cultural communities. And we are already doing that with cooperation agreements, joint agricultural projects with traditional leaders. And we will continue with that and continue to be committed to the African continent.
Now, the presidency spokesperson, Vincent Magwenya, has raised concerns on X that you allegedly spread misinformation in the U.S. back in 2018 already, which he believes caused significant harm and warrants reflection and accountability. What's your response to that?
Yeah, well, it's unfortunately a political strategy. If you have senior ANC leaders in the ANC whose actions, irresponsible actions, has led to a very negative situation, the easiest thing is to try and evade responsibility by just evading another scapegoat. And we said quite clearly, give us the facts. Give us the fact where, when, on what date, to whom, that we spread any misinformation. But the problem is you have the sweeping statements simply to divert attention. And of course, we would actually welcome action because there's no foundation for that, and there's no proof because it does not exist. So this is purely a blame game of scapegoating AfriForum, but of course that won't solve the problem. And that is unfortunate. You have to realize what is the mistakes we made to rectify it. But if you go into denialism and say just it is misinformation, then we're not going to solve that. It's not AfriForum that signed the Expropriation Act. It's not us that signed the Bela Act. It's not AfriForum that moved away from a neutral foreign policy and then siding with sides. Our two biggest trade partners, the biggest is China, the second is the US. And we should be very careful not to get involved in any of those two blocks because it will only be to the detriment of normal people in this country. And that's what we've always said. Put the interests of the people of this country first, not the ideology and interests of the ANC. And that is what has unfortunately happened. The interests of the party was put above, and the ideology of the party was put above the interests of South African people. And now we are seeing the terrible effects of that. And then, despite that, there's now an effort to blame AfriForum.
Now, AfriForum's international advocacy efforts have raised concerns among some South Africans who feel that the organization is working against national unity or operating as a counter-revolutionary force. What message do you have for ordinary South Africans, both black and white, who harbor these concerns?
Well, I think our stance has always been that we act in the interests of South Africans. What we've seen, what happens when a country disrespects property rights, and we can look at Zimbabwe. More than 1 million Zimbabweans have come over the border to South Africa because the economy was destroyed. So if you're going to say, well, that is terrible, we want to save South African people from the same fate, then we have to do whatever we can to try and stop that. And unfortunately, now people say, well, that's not a good thing. I think it's disloyal. That would our message be to the South African president. It's disloyal to go on a route that can have the same effects as Zimbabwe. And our message would also be to the US, if you want to punish somebody, don't punish the normal citizens in this country. The fact is you're angry with the leadership of the ANC. If you want to get involved in a fight and punish, rather focus on them rather than the country as a whole, because the country does not deserve to be punished for the behavior of politicians.
Now, Elon Musk has called for Julius Malema to be declared an international criminal. What are AfriForum's views on this matter, particularly given the organization's history of conflict with Malema and the EFF?
Well, if President Trump says there are certain communities that are treated very badly, then I think Julius Malema is a good example. But it's not only him. Of course, one should be less worried about him now because his party is in decline. He's lost his influence. But the big problem here is somebody can sing kill the boer, kill the farmer, and it's not only him supporting that. You have a government, President Ramaphosa, ANC leaders that are quiet about this, actually defending the song. Then, of course, this is something that leads to the situation where President Trump states people are treated very badly. So the action should have happened in South Africa. And I think Elon Musk's call is seen with the background of just being accepted in South Africa.
AfriForum also opposed the Expropriation Act, but many black South Africans feel that land reform has been too slow. So what alternative solutions do you as AfriForum propose to address the historical land dispossession and promote equitable land distribution in this country?
Yes, we are fully in favor of land reform, specifically through the restitution program. But the fact is the restitution program is failing. But the reason, why is that reason? It's because of corruption in government. It's because of inability in government to go through with it. And it's because it's based on a situation where government itself takes control of land rather than giving it to people for redistribution. And we have seen black farmers being set up for failure. If you don't give people property rights, if you don't have a title deed, you cannot get a loan. If you cannot get a loan, you cannot get access to the input costs, and then you're going to fail. So that government should take accountability for that. And now they don't want to do that. So they have to say, well, the system doesn't work because of fundamental issues, not their own inability and corruption. Now they want to go to legislation that says, let's expropriate with no compensation, and those people want to say this is misinformation. I want to ask, go and read section 12.3 of the Act and decide for yourselves. We've seen that in Zimbabwe, it has not led to the eradication of inequalities, or it might, in the sense that it did, it made sure that everybody was equally very poor and equally in a situation of destitute.
Yes.
So this action against us is not an action against land, that we are against land reform. It's what this act is. It's not an act that would promote land reform,
Mr.
not at all.
Unfortunately, we ran out of time, but we would like to have the discussion further. That was AfriForum CEO. Thank you so much for your time, colleague Creel. We wanted to also speak to the EFF, but unfortunately, the spokesperson is not picking up his phone. That's where we got to leave it for today. From the team, Tracy Bumga, Tizwangada Menashe, Stakazelo Dlamini, and Marumo Kakana. Our senior producer is Ronald Perry. Our technical producer, Kahizo Butloko, and executive producer, Vutsila Kota. I'm Elvis Presslin. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Same time, same place. Ciao for now. Arrivederci.
In our top stories, Ndlozi resigns from the EFF and National Assembly to hold urgent debate on SNDF soldiers killed in the DRC. Good morning. Former EFF spokesperson and Member of Parliament Dr. Thulasizwe has officially resigned from the party. He has finally broken his silence after being quiet for months. Thulasizwe has opened up on why he did not attend the EFF's National People's Assembly in Johannesburg in November last year. His absence from the elective Congress sparked speculation that he would resign from the EFF after a fallout with party leader Julius Malema. Thulasizwe, who has since left the EFF, has told SABC News in an exclusive interview that he did not attend the Congress because he had been suspended.
Well, I couldn't attend the conference of the EFF, the NPA, because over a dispute over my suspension. I was suspended about 6 weeks before the conference, and the suspension was unconventional in that it didn't rely on the code of conduct of the EFF summoned by its constitution, but largely the suspension rested on 2 counts.
The National Assembly will today hold a special sitting in which members will debate the 14 SNDF members who died in the DRC. All members of cabinet have been requested to attend the debate. The South African soldiers were killed in fighting between the M23 rebels and the Congolese military in eastern DRC. Their bodies are in Uganda in the process of their repatriation. President Cyril Ramaphosa has directed that the national flag be flown at half-mast at all flag stations around the country until Friday. Abra Babia reports.
Aside from Monday's urgent debate, Parliament is yet to decide how else to commemorate the 14 soldiers. Since their deaths in Goma in January, members of Parliament have called for clarity on the well-being of SANDF soldiers in the DRC. While MPs have again criticized the ongoing underfunding of the SANDF, saying the capacitation of deployed members is sacrosanct.
The Limpopo Transport MEC Violet Mathieu says they will begin the process of identifying the bodies of victims of the Hoedspruit crash today. 13 people, including a child, were killed in a collision between a van and a taxi on Saturday. Mathieu says the child was headed to school.
One of the occupants in that taxi was a young child who was going to school in Hoedspruit because it was a sports day. I received a number and the names of all those that perished on the accident. There are 13 of them, but the police, the hospital management are going to continue with the identification of the body through the DNA. So we'll be waiting for the report from the hospital management as well as the law enforcement. All the processes of identifying who are those people are going to be started because those people bend beyond recognition.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has described the late former Namibian President Dr. Sam Nujoma as an extraordinary freedom fighter who made a huge contribution to the struggle against colonialism and apartheid. Nujoma died on Saturday at the age of 95. He was the founding father of Namibia. Kailihle Kumalo has more.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has joined a number of heads of states and government to honor the late former Namibian president, Dr. Sam Nujoma. Ramaphosa says Nujoma inspired the Namibian people to pride when the neighboring country attained independence in 1990. SADC Chair and Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa says Nujoma was a towering figure of liberation and champion of African independence. Kenyan President William Ruto says the late statesman was a selfless, courageous and visionary leader. AU boss Musa Faki Mohammed says the continent mourns the passing of its illustrious leader, Dr. Sam Nujoma.
And finally, U.S. President Donald Trump has reiterated his plan to take control of Gaza and relocate the Palestinian population despite global outrage against it. He says he's committed to buying and owning Gaza and making sure Hamas does not come back. Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One as he traveled to the Super Bowl in New Orleans that Palestinians should not be going back to Gaza.
I think that it's a big mistake to allow people, the Palestinians, the people living in Gaza, to go back yet another time. And we don't want Hamas going back. Think of it as a big real estate site. And the United States is going to own it and will slowly, very slowly, we're in no rush, develop it. We're going to bring stability to the Middle East, to a totally war-torn part of the Middle East.
Recapping the top story, the National Assembly will today hold a special sitting in which members will debate the 14 SNDF members who died in the DRC. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. A series of early morning crashes on Durban's N2 North between the M4 Southern Freeway split and the Higginson Highway. A couple of them are being cleared, but there is one, maybe two scenes actually, that are still there. There is some queuing pressure as you come up past Mlazi into that Chatsworth area this morning. Also on the N2 South, a breakdown before Kwamashu, so just after Gateway, there is already an early queue of traffic. The N1 North at Crossmere coming back into Joburg after the weekend, being held up with some roadworks, and Cape Town's Baden-Powell Drive quite sandy this morning at Coastal Park. Watch how you go. You might be going into oncoming traffic between Strandfontein and Muizenberg, and a crash at Emalahleni in Mpumalanga. The N4 driving east is being held up right in the central of Emalahleni with a crash blocking a couple of lanes. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. It's soccer action over the weekend. We have a wrap as well as that epic encounter between Mamelodi Sundowns and Orlando Pirates. We'll unpack that as well as the South African indoor hockey men's team. They're powered to secure their first medal in history. All the details around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Good morning. Today is Monday, the 10th of February 2025. Welcome to it, the Monday edition of The Morning Brief on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your morning brief. Come, let us spend the next 3 hours together informing and engaging each other and sharpening each other's perspectives on the key issues of the day. Coming up on the show over the next 3 hours, let me highlight one or two stories for you. A continent remembers one of its finest and most gallant sons. Namibia's founding president and liberation icon Sam Nujoma has passed on at the age of 95. His death underscores the nearly complete demise of an entire generation of Southern Africa's finest liberation leaders. Sipho Mantula will lead his Africa report with that story, and then we'll give you the reflections of Toivo Njebela, who is the editor-in-chief of the Namibian Sun. Those conversations coming up from around 8 on the show. So Sipho Mantula at first, and then you will hear from Toivo Njebela, the editor-in-chief of the Namibian Sun. So you'll remember me wondering out loud, if you were listening last week, you will remember me wondering out loud why it is that the voices of disinformation tend to get a lot of airplay and the voices of reason are sort of downplayed from time to time. I was referring to the whole situation around Donald Trump and what he has said in the executive orders that he has now signed around South Africa. Well, between 6:40 and 7 o'clock, we have two interviews that will bring you two conversations. The first is with Solidarity's Werner Human. Over the weekend, you will have heard Solidarity and AfriForum denying all responsibility for informing the U.S. president's misinformed positions on South Africa's land policies. Then immediately after that, you will hear from the Agri-SA CEO, Johan Kotze, and his organization's view on the matter are refreshingly clear. There have been absolutely no seizures of land or confiscations of private property, nor has any land been expropriated without compensation. Those are the views of Agri-SA. Johan Kotze will be in conversation with me at about 10 to 7. Then, this is not on the show, but we thought we'd highlight it for you. A major conversation driver today, I predict, will be the exclusive interview that the SABC News political editor Mzwandile Mbeje has conducted with the former EFF MP Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. That interview will premiere on Morning Live at about 6:30. And in it, Ndlozi reveals that the reason he simply appeared to, I'm chuckling because I nearly said he simply appeared to disappear. He simply
seemed to disappear off the political scene ahead of the party's elective congress in December last year was that he had actually been suspended 6 weeks prior to the congress taking place, and that was based on 2 counts. I want you to take a listen to a snippet of that interview, and perhaps you can share your reflections, and in fact once you've seen the full interview, because it will be on Morning Live, as I say, at 6:30, but also it will be carried on all of the SABC News digital platforms immediately thereafter. Take a listen to what Mbuyiseni Ndlozi has had to say to Mzwandile Mbeche.
We can all agree these are very serious allegations that one had betrayed the revolution, had been disloyal, and that indeed you are a double agent of some sort. Of course, I can state categorically now that I never planned to join the MKP. I still don't. I never worked with anybody in the MKP in relation to some conspiracy about my departure. And I think that whatever information they say they have was based largely on lies. Secondly, I did know about the departure of Floyd Shivambu. He did come to tell me of his consideration, and indeed I did tell him that, look, you would have to take the leadership into confidence, and he did. The idea that I should have ran behind his back and informed other people or the leadership suggests that I'm an informant, a gossiper, or a wedge driver. I am none of those. It was Floyd's decision. He had to communicate it. It was not my decision. It was his. He had to communicate it, and he did.
So there you have it. That's the conversation. You can look out for it on Morning Live. It will premiere at about 6:30. So that's how it's looking. Weigh in on these conversations and any other conversations that may be on your mind this morning. Give me a call. The number to dial 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. Of course, we have all of your regulars logged and loaded, and Musa with your news updates every half hour, Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 minutes or so, Zaikan watching your sport throughout the morning, Dauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered, and Sipho Mandula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The first hour of the Monday edition of The Morning Brief starts now.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Defending champions are eager to display a top-class brand of football to emphasize why they are Wienerkusen, while the Bavarians are confident this is their season. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch the Battle of Giants, Bayer Leverkusen FC versus Bayern München FC on Saturday, 15 February at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Hey, and good morning to you. Did you have a good weekend?
Good morning, Thulas. I did. Really good. My team lost, but we are strong.
In the same boat. Don't worry. Don't worry. Same boat. In fact, I don't even want to talk about it. You know that song? We don't talk about Bruno. Tell Zai when she comes here. We don't talk about Chelsea. And I see that It's been said Donald Trump says very bad things are happening. So one of those very bad things we've been doing since 1994, one of our functioning institutions called Parliament, holding the executive to account. I see that's coming up. Very bad things happening today.
You know, a weekend filled with inaccurate information to us and misleading reports, and this so highlights, you know, the effects of misinformation as well as disinformation.
Absolutely.
And, you know, some time ago, a European Commission study actually suggested that X has the biggest proportion of disinformation, you know, of about 6 big social networks. So,
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this morning as well, we are also previewing the urgent debate in the National Assembly on a matter of national importance, and that's the soldiers killed in the Eastern DRC. And the topic of the debate is the recent casualties incurred by the SANDF in the Democratic Republic of Congo and their implications for the Defense Force. In the case of the escaped murderer and rapist Abu Bester, the state has declared that it's prepared for trial, and Bester and his co-accused are expected to appear in court today. They're facing a number of charges, including corruption, criminal conspiracy, defeating the ends of justice, and Bester faces charges of escaping prison. And then in the Free State, then, the judgment is expected to be delivered. That's in the bail application in the matter of a 40-year-old man who allegedly raped a 16-year-old boy, and the accused allegedly has previously faced charges of possession of child pornography as well as sexual assault. The South African Human Rights Commission has escalated its investigation into the abandoned Buffelsfontein mine in Stilfontein into a national inquiry, and this follows the resurfacing of the nearly 2,000 illegal miners since August last year. And this is while rescue technicians called off the search yesterday, and it's expected to resume today for the unknown number of illegal miners at an abandoned mine shaft in Roodepoort, west of Johannesburg. And you've mentioned it, an exclusive SABC interview, former EFF MP Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi breaking his silence about his political future following his absence during the recent EFF conference, and where he explains his absence from the Third National People's Assembly actually stemmed from disagreements over his suspension prior to the party's elective conference. So something to look forward to listen as more details will be revealed. And those are some of the stories that we will be focusing on this morning.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that interview, it does seem, just from the teasers that the team has put out, that there's a lot more that will be coming through from that interview with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi.
Indeed.
All right. And Musa there will keep you updated with the news every half hour here on The Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So here's how things are looking for you on the weather front. 3 warnings for you. The first one is a yellow level 2 warning. It says severe thunderstorms resulting in damaging winds, excessive lightning, hail and heavy downpours leading to localized flooding of susceptible low-lying areas, roads and bridges, and localized damage to property and infrastructure. Those conditions are expected over the Gauteng, eastern parts of the Free State, and northwest, southwestern bushveld of Limpopo, western highveld of Mpumalanga, as well as the extreme western and northeastern parts of KwaZulu-Natal. The second one, yellow level 2 warning, disruptive rainfall resulting in localized flooding of informal settlements, low-lying areas and bridges, as well as dirt roads, and that is expected in places over the Lowveld and valley of Limpopo. And lastly, a yellow level 1 warning says damaging wind and waves resulting in difficulty in navigation at sea, and those conditions expected between Alexander Bay and Cape Agulhas. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria partly cloudy. In fact, Pretoria cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers in the afternoon with a minimum temperature of 19 and a maximum of 27. Johannesburg cloudy cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers in the afternoon, 18 to 25. Mbombela, cloudy with isolated morning and evening showers, 20 to 25. Bulukwane will be cloudy with isolated afternoon showers and thunder showers, 20 to 25. Mahikeng will be partly cloudy with scattered afternoon showers and thunder showers, 20 to 29. Bloemfontein will be fine, becoming partly cloudy with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 33. Kimberley will be fine, becoming partly cloudy, 15 to 32. Cape Town, partly cloudy, becoming fine by the afternoon, 19 to 21. George, partly cloudy with isolated rain and showers in the afternoon, 19 to 21. Gqeberha, cloudy with isolated showers and rain, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon, 19 to 21. East London will be cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 19 to 21. Durban will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 21 to 25. Richards Bay will be cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 22 to 26. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will be cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 16 to 21.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
So let's bring you the story now. Israeli forces have withdrawn from the Netzarim corridor, a strategic military zone that separated northern and southern Gaza. This marks a significant development in the ongoing ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas. The ceasefire has seen the release of hostages and prisoners on both sides. For more on this, I'm joined on the line by Dr. Kingsley Makubela, who is a risk analyst, former diplomat, and public relations executive. Good morning to you, Doc, and thank you for your time as always. The Netzarim corridor measures about 6 kilometers, and Israel had set it up as a military zone during the fighting. How significant is it that the IDF is withdrawing from it at this stage of the ceasefire?
Well, the withdrawal of the IDF, it's very important to Thulasizwe, because it allows the Palestinian to move from the north to the south. As you remember, the Israelis dissected the Gaza Strip into 2 military zones, and the withdrawal from Netzarim corridor, it's a significant move, but it comes a few days before the next meeting in Doha to discuss the next phase of the ceasefire agreement, which would have to do with the release of the dead bodies and so on by Hamas, and further release of prisoners by Israel.
Yeah, so tell me about those negotiations. I saw a report that says it's raising a bit of concern that Benjamin Netanyahu is sending low-level officials to those talks.
Well, he has always not attached too many attention on issues that he doesn't agree with. Remember, Netanyahu, in earnest, he wants to carry on with the conflict, but because of the agreement, he's bound really to send people. And the question is that would he violate the next phase? Because Hamas still has bodies of deceased people, and these are mainly civilians who are deceased that is still kept. Israel estimates that there are 3 or 4 deceased, but the expectation is that you have more people than that. But he can't not regard any discussion that comes out of Doha.
So as much as, significant progress has been recorded in implementing the first phase of the ceasefire, including this withdrawal from the Netzarim corridor, we are not at a stage, are we, Doc, where we are talking about a full-on Israeli troop pullout from Gaza, are we?
We're not yet there, but this is the step in the right direction. Israel is no option to Thulasizwe. I mean, Reuters estimated Israel last year has lost 7 billion from the Suez Canal business, and there are about 46,000 businesses that have shut down. And the Americans are running seriously out of cash as they have this 36 trillion debt. So Israel would have to reach some agreement and sustain that agreement. And I've seen reports by agencies that are really looking at the status of the economic status of Israel, that they wouldn't downgrade Israel if the ceasefire holds. So there are a lot at stake for Israel too.
So the dynamics domestically playing themselves out and perhaps even having an influence in how these negotiations in Doha and fidelity to the ceasefire is carried through?
Absolutely. It would have serious ramification for the Israeli economy. This is the economy that has been battered since the conflict began. At one stage, Israel was spending about $1 billion a month to run its security. During the course of this conflict, Israel has been spending $4 billion a month just for the security. So it's coming at a heavy price for Israel. And we're talking about the economy of Israel. That's about $505 billion. You're talking close to $500 billion economy. And this has been suffering. The cost of living for the Israel, I mean, the per capita income is about $50-something thousand, but it is going down now because of this conflict, and it's raising serious concern about the sustainability of this conflict. Thulasizwe.
I don't know how you see it, Doc. For me, it seems to be that the negotiation of the next phase of the ceasefire will be quite difficult, if not ending up in some kind of a standoff or stalemate. Because, and the reason I say this is because Israel insists that it will not implement a full troop withdrawal until Hamas's fighting capabilities are fully demobilized. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, though, Hamas says it will not release the last of the hostages until a full withdrawal is implemented. Is there a way out of this impasse?
This is the most difficult phase because Hamas wants a permanent ceasefire. And they've agreed that during the second phase, a permanent ceasefire will be discussed. The second phase, as you know, it just happened a few days ago, the release of the 3 prisoners and so on. But Israel has no choice. There are other dynamics that are really playing a major role in this. And it's the United States. The United States cannot sustain the conflict in Israel, cannot keep on pumping money into Israel because it has its own problem. So Israel would have to find a way of coming up with some level of an agreement that would prolong the ceasefire, maybe for the next few years or so on. And there's this plan by Donald Trump to turn the Gaza into some form of a Riviera. You can see that behind closed doors, there have been discussions about the permanent withdrawal of Israel and then what happened. And that has been a problem even during the Biden administration. It's when Israel withdraws from the Gaza Strip, who is going to take charge of that? There have been views that the Palestinians should do that. The Arab world is quite keen to intervene in the rebuilding because that third phase, it includes also the rebuilding of what Israel destroyed in that part of the world.
Talk to me a bit more about that outlandish proposal by Donald Trump that basically would see him and the United States drive out some 2 million Palestinians out of Gaza and take over and do a bit of work on it, as he puts it. How does it feature in this conversation about a ceasefire, a truce, and processes that had already been laid down? Benjamin Netanyahu, at that media briefing, did not give any indication of what his feeling is about this proposal, but just noted it as outside-the-box thinking.
You know, Netanyahu has, I think yesterday, started making comments around this. He has categorized Gaza Strip as a prison because people have said it's a human prison. Netanyahu has accepted that, and he's coming up with the idea that people should move out of Gaza and Gaza should be pacified and rebuilt, and those who want to come back should come back under certain conditions. That's what Netanyahu is saying. I think what Donald Trump said is what he agreed with Netanyahu, that he would start to run with the idea to see the reaction. But you know, countries like Germany, France, United Kingdom are really opposed to this because it speaks to ethnic cleansing. And really it exposes Netanyahu and his government to this idea that they are involved in ethnic cleansing and war crime in Gaza Strip. So it puts Netanyahu in quite of a tight position. But once that pronouncement was made by Donald Trump, that's why Netanyahu felt very comfortable yesterday to come up and start to support this idea, albeit really nuancing a bit in terms of what he thinks, but in totality is the same as what Donald Trump is saying. Remove the Palestinian out of there. That's 2 million people. Let the Arab world see how they can accommodate them and rebuild the whole Gaza Strip. Of course, Donald Trump is thinking of building casinos there and let it become the sin area in the Middle East.
My goodness. All right. Thank you for that. Dr. Kingsley Makubela is a risk analyst, former diplomat, and a public relations executive. Brings us to 6:30, and Musa on standby with your latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us in the headlines. America's plan to impose a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminium imports could severely affect South Africa. President Donald Trump will unveil the plan today. Former EFF spokesperson and Member of Parliament Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi has officially resigned from the party. He has finally broken his silence after being quiet for months. Ndlozi has opened up on why he did not attend the EFF's National People's Assembly in Johannesburg in December last year. And the National Assembly will today hold a special sitting in which members will debate the 14 SANDF members who died in the DRC. All members of Cabinet have been requested to attend the debate. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Some heavy traffic into Joburg from the south this morning. The Mike one's at Ormonde already, sort of Uncle Charlie's Ormonde, all the way through to Empire Road. That's a lot worse than normal. The R59 arriving from Vaal, queuing up through Swadcopies up towards Michelle Avenue, and a crash on the N3 north before Heidelberg Road. So coming in from Phosphorus, passing Sprayview, that's quite busy. Major delays already this Monday coming down Durban's N2 with a breakdown before Kwamashu Highway. That's pushing a heavy queue back through the Mhlanga area. A couple of crashes on the side of the N2 north before the Higginson Highway. There's been about 3 collisions on that section this morning between the M4 and the Higginson Highway Chatsworth off-ramp, so not sure what's causing that, but just take it easy on that section. Rain across Durban as well, so slippery conditions out and about. Cape Town, pretty thick sand, Baden-Powell Drive at Coastal Park, so between Strandfontein and Muizenberg there may be some traffic disruption, and lights are down right in the heart of Epping, one of the busiest junctions in Cape Town, Jakes Kerville and Viking Way. No traffic lights, queues already heading north from Langa side. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey, good morning to you, Zai.
Good morning.
How was your weekend?
What a weekend. Sport. Not so much for Chelsea. But
I was about to say, well, there's no point in me saying it now. I thought you had gotten the memo, Zai, that like we don't talk about Bruno, we don't talk about Chelsea. Instead, we talk about Orlando Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns.
I know, title race. What are you thinking? Sundowns are just lapping everyone at the moment. I don't know. Yes, that's how the title race is looking. There's plenty of dissecting and reflecting. The Orlando Pirates coach, Jose Rivero, has opened up on the gap between his team and Mamelodi Sundowns after their 4-1 defeat over the weekend. All happened at Loftus Versfeld Stadium. The loss leaves the Buccaneers trailing Sundowns by 9 points in the PSL title race. Rivero emphasizing the true difference between the teams will be seen at the end of the 30-game season, highlighting missed chances like Dion Hotto in the first half as potential turning points. Now with 16 games left, Pirates have a tough road ahead in closing that gap. Up next, they face Baroka FC in the Nedbank Cup round of 16 this Saturday. Now, yesterday we saw SuperSport United. They secured a late 1-1 draw against Sekhukhune United in the Betway Premiership at Old Peter Mokaba Stadium. Elsewhere, Wolves, they cruised into the FA Cup 5th round as 2 goals in the space of 39 seconds sealed a 2-0 win over Blackburn yesterday. And Plymouth Argyle caused a major upset in the FA Cup. They secured a 1-0 win against Arne Slot's Liverpool, ending Liverpool's hopes of securing the trophy for an 8th time. Let's hear from Plymouth boss Miran Muslic.
It's the biggest cup in the world. It's the most famous cup in the world, and we played Liverpool, so it was just omnipresent and very, very big in the city, in the club, in our locker room, and we just wanted to represent Argyle best possible. That was the game plan, to be structured, to be organized, to be brave, to fill it with intensity, And then just to show ourselves, to use this huge stage, it's an opportunity for the players to shine. And I think the lads did it outstanding.
And we also had results from Brighton. They beat Chelsea 2-1. Let's go to the story. Hockey. The South African indoor hockey men's team secured their first medal in history as they defeated Belgium 6-5 in the bronze medal match of the FIH Indoor Hockey World Cup that took place in Croatia. Cricket action. A clinical Australia completing a 9-wicket victory over Sri Lanka early on day 4, and that was in Galle to seal a dominant victory. That was 2-0. Their series win victory. So Australia there, this is the first series win that they've had in Sri Lanka since 2011. Let's go to tennis action. Carlos Alcaraz edging a tight final against Australia's Alex de Minaur to win the Rotterdam Open and claim the first indoor hardcourt title of his career. 6-4, 3-6, 6-2 was the victory. Rugby action. Ireland, well, they produced quite a statement in their Six Nations victory away to Scotland at Murrayfield, moving to the top of the table with a 32-18 bonus point win. And finally, UFC middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis says his win against Sean Strickland stamps his authority in the division. The South African beat his American challenger and former title holder on points after 5 rounds at the Kudus Bank Arena in Australia. Strickland has been given a lot of credit for not folding when du Plessis broke his nose in the 3rd round. Du Plessis then confirmed that he and Brazilian Alex Pereira have agreed to a showdown shortly after he dominated Strickland.
Yeah. He came up and he said, "Did you challenge me?" And I was like, "I did the whole show. I did the whole movie scene and everything." And you're like, "Did you challenge me?" That's kind of, I mean, that's anticlimactic, but sure, yes. And I said, yeah, I did challenge you, but I did, I have the world's respect for Alex Pereira. I think he is the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. I have the most respect for him, what he's done in a short period of time in the UFC, to come from another sport, what he's done there. But yes, I want to share the octagon with that man. I want to be a guy. I've beaten Adesanya. Who's beaten him? I know I can beat him. And at 205, 100%.
That's du Plessis promising fireworks again, and we'll bring you more of that. Stay tuned. Sports, top of the hour on the Morning Brief. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
And let's say good morning for the first update with Ndauling Lechela. Ndauling, good morning. Did you have a good weekend?
Morning, Thulas. I had a lovely weekend. And what made it even better is that Pirates lost. So great.
I'm not one to talk about sport. Let's talk the economy. Trump is eyeing steel and aluminium tariffs, or as they pronounce it over there, aluminum.
That's right, Thulas. President Donald Trump announcing plans to introduce new 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminium imports into the U.S., in addition to existing metals duties. Now, this move is part of Trump's trade policy overhaul and is expected to affect major steel importing countries like Canada, Brazil, and Mexico. Trump further said he will announce the new metals tariffs today, followed by reciprocal tariffs on Tuesday or Wednesday. The reciprocal tariffs will apply to all countries and match the tariff rates levied by each country. Trump's reasoning is simple here. If they charge us, we charge them. Canada in particular will be impacted as it is the largest supplier of primary aluminium metal to the U.S., accounting for about 79% of total imports in the first 11 months of 2024. Canadian Innovation Minister Francois-Philippe Champagne has expressed concerns, stating that the Canadian steel and aluminium support key U.S. industries, including defense, shipbuilding, and automotive sectors. The move has also sparked concerns about the potential impact on U.S. trade partners, with some experts a warning of retaliatory measures.
But he won't like this, will he, Donald Trump and Dowling? U.S. jobs growth slowed in January.
Not at all. He really won't. But it isn't really a cause of concern just yet. Jobs have slowed more than expected in January, with the economy only adding 143,000 jobs, missing expectations of 170,000 jobs. One of the biggest reasons here were slowing job growth in California as they had the fires on that front in January. The unemployment rate, however, dropped to 4%, and that giving analysts some reprieve and also giving the Fed room to hold off on cutting rates anytime soon. So January's job growth was driven by key sectors, including the healthcare industry, which added 44,000 new jobs, while retail and government each added 34,000 and 32,000 jobs respectively. Social assistance also saw an increase. However, mining-related industries experienced a decline, losing 8,000 jobs. Experts also just weighing in on the report, with Jeff Schulz of ClearBridge Investments noting that while the report missed expectations, strong positive revisions to prior months and a drop in the unemployment rate made it a solid print. Chris Zaccarelli of Northlight Asset Management said that while the large drop in non-farm payrolls look like a big mess, it was mitigated by the revision to last month's number. So overall, the report suggests that the U.S. labor market remains resilient despite some monthly volatility.
All right, Darling, please give us our first recap of market activity for this morning.
So U.S. markets gave up their gains on Friday, with stocks closing the week in the red. The Nasdaq taking the biggest hit there, down over 1.3%. Coming back home, the JSE faring well, closing mostly in the green. The all-share gaining just over a third of a percent, boosted by a 0.75% jump in the financial 15. On the currency front, the rand remaining steady at 18.51 to the greenback. The rand, however, making a comeback or rather the dollar is likely to make a comeback. So we might see some weakness coming through. The comeback, of course, on the back of the recent U.S. jobs report suggesting that the Fed will continue to keep rates on hold. And then moving over to Asia, those markets trading mixed this morning as traders eye Trump's next move after he threatened the implementation of tariffs on steel and aluminium imports.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ndauling Lechela. She'll be back with a second update, and that is coming up just after 7:30 here on The Morning Brief.
We've upgraded. Our new GIS-linked national address database lets us connect with you better than ever before. By visualizing licensed and unlicensed households nationwide, we can ensure timely communication. Our payment reminders are a crucial tool to help you stay compliant and avoid penalties, empowering you to take proactive steps. Efficient electronic communication helps us collect fees seamlessly, bolstering the SABC's mandate in line with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act. TV licenses. Pay yours, make a difference.
For news on South African industry and mining, Creamer Media's Engineering News and Mining Weekly has you covered. Click through to Creamer Media's Engineering News each day for the latest on the people and companies shaping the energy transition and South African industry. Keep your finger on the critical minerals pulse by visiting Creamer Media's Mining Weekly. For deeper insight, subscribe to the Engineering News and Mining Weekly magazine, out on Fridays. Creamer Media. Current, credible, comprehensive.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
All right, it's just gone 17 minutes to 7 here on SAFM. Let's turn our attention to this story now. The Solidarity Movement, which includes AfriForum and the trade union Solidarity, says its members will remain in South Africa despite an offer for resettlement by the U.S. President Donald Trump. The movement held a briefing on Saturday to respond to Trump's executive order, which sets out plans to provide opportunities for Afrikaners in the United States. Trump has expressed his disapproval of South Africa's land policy, among others, and that he cites as reasons for his halt in aid to South Africa. Let's speak now to Werner Human, who is the operational head for the Solidarity Movement. Good morning to you, Werner, and thank you for your time. Do you understand the reason why many South Africans hold you, Solidarity and AfriForum, responsible for informing, in part, what Donald Trump has decided to do in relation to South Africa? Do you at least understand where that is coming from?
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity this morning to address this important issue. What you've referred to is, for us, we would want to understand what precisely would be actually the source or the reason for that dismay among many South Africans. Maybe there's a misunderstanding, but we as a movement try to communicate as best as we can our position, and we've done so for many, many years. We think that the discussion has shifted towards that side to place the blame on us, and we think that suggestion simply cannot hold water or be true. And the reason is the ANC administration through the course of the years has done much things to agitate the United States, and there's a long list of things. And that resistance against the ANC government started actually quite a few years ago under the Biden administration, and that was the build-up to this. So when there's a truthful misunderstanding to place the blame on us, we would like the opportunity to address that, but we think there's no merit in that actually.
Well, part of it is informed by the many trips that you have taken to the United States, the many engagements that between the two of you have held with influential people in Congress, among others, giving the story that says Afrikaners are treated badly in South Africa, that they are being targeted, and that there's a targeting of private property in South Africa. So when people hear that Donald Trump is signing these executive orders and speaking directly from your organization's talking points, people connect the dots.
Yes, let me maybe clear that up a bit more, that we have been in Europe and the United States for the past few years, and I can share with you the two broad messages that we have. The first message is that we share with the people over there, the administrations and the people that we meet, think tanks and the rest, we share with them an objective view on where South Africa is as a country, and they do appreciate that analysis very dearly. The second thing that we mention is that it is important for us to solve the issues in the country as well. It's important to raise awareness on these issues, but to make a strong message that we are here to stay and also work on these issues. But to speak that the different sets of truth that I've referred to, the objective statistics that shows how the economy is going down, how there are harmful policies, those things are important to raise awareness because it affects everyone in the country.
Why? Why with the United States and Europe? Why have you prosecuted all of those differences in policy here at home to their ultimate extent, to the extent that you now feel you should be going outside the country?
Absolutely, absolutely. I can say with confidence, in 2018, when my colleagues at AfriForum were in the United States, the President Ramaphosa, in his State of the Nation, he implored upon us to say, let us talk about the issues we have here in the country together. Immediately after that statement, AfriForum has written to him and said we would want to have engagement, and that remains still the case today. That letter was unanswered. I was involved in various litigation forms against the state, including the SAA. Even when we were in these discussions about the way forward and the application against SAA, we implored the late Minister Pravin Gordhan also to say there's different issues, there's more issues in the country that we would want to place on the table and have addressed, and to have the objections we have heard. He also promised us that there would be this avenue and channel, but we get no communication that we can sit around and say, these are the views that we have, how can we move forward? And being the fact that we've had no channel to air these views, it is quite a natural step then to say, let us go to the international front and raise awareness.
Did you tell the president that you were going to the United States? Did you write to him to say, given that you've not taken up our offer for us to have a conversation, we are now taking these issues, why should he meet you now?
Why should he meet us now?
Yes.
I think that because this is a pressing matter that we have now, I think it's in the interest of the country and everyone that we do have these discussions to listen to what we have to say about the shortcomings and the policy direction that the country has taken. And I think there's still room for that. I think we can never say that because matters have gone where they are now, we might even say that maybe it would have had an influence a few years ago on the direction that the United States have taken if we could have convinced the President and the administration of some of our views. So we can't have a position to say now it's impossible to have discussions, because that was also clearly the case when we've written to them for years asking to say, let us have a discussion on the issues that we have.
All right, Werner, hold on for me a moment. I want to take a call from Sive in Gqeberha. Sive, you want to weigh in on our conversation with Werner this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. How are you?
I'm very well. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Thulasizwe, I am more interested in the America and Europe visit. Why not China? Why not South America? Because now this thing is clear that this is a racial matter according to AfriForum. And again, I have said this last week, that this conversation had started around 2008. Why, when now the bill has come into effect and AfriForum wants to make this thing
All right.
a big matter out of nothing?
Sive, hold on.
AfriForum, they want to repeat apartheid.
Okay, that's the question, Werner.
And I thank you for the question. I think it's important to note that we do seek good relations with everyone in the country, also on the African continent. We also have an institution which is not directly involved with our movement, but is focusing on agriculture, and they strengthen, especially on the agricultural side, with various organizations across Africa. And one of the most important things that they highlight, and which is also farmers across the continent as well, is the question of property rights, and to have a very secure position with regards to
But the question, Werner, is why the United States and Europe and not China or any other country? China is our biggest trading partner. Why not them to say, the country that you trade with, we have these concerns? Why US and Europe?
Well, US and Europe are also very important trade partners of South Africa. The United States is the biggest economy in the world. Europe is also a very significant trading partner. But we would say when we can hold discussions with other groups as well, if there can be access to a country like China or other, we would want to air those points as well. So we haven't tried that. I've no knowledge to China as well, but I don't think it proves.
You don't believe that they would have the influence, being our biggest trading partner, that they would have the influence that you are requiring on South Africa to say, hey, we like trading with you, but we don't like X, Y, and Z, which has been brought to our attention. You don't believe China would have had that influence?
China might have had that influence, so we are not against meeting with other countries as well if we have the opportunity for that. But that doesn't prove that the merits and that what we place on the table is unwarranted or unmerited.
You understand the suspicion, sorry, Werner, you understand the suspicion that Africans would have about American influence and interference in their affairs, given history. Do you understand how that is read in that way immediately when you run to the United States and Europe?
It is understandable if they say that there are other role players as well. I think it's important to note that if you have a country like the United States or Europe or any other country, and as I said, the agricultural institution that we have ties with do reach out to African continents as well with regards to property rights and the security of that. But it is important that you ultimately meet with and you find a common cause with countries and administration that also supports that position. I'm not sure if China is also very strong on property rights and the necessity of that in the economy.
Right.
But I don't want to create the impression that we are only very selective in what we meet. I want to state then that we are open to meet other administration and think tanks, and we will.
Well,
we will
the impression it gives, Werner, is that you went where you knew that the ground was fertile for the kind of message that you had. But hold on, let me take a call from Thomas in Newcastle. Good morning to you, Thomas. You want to weigh in on this conversation?
Yes, I do. Tulas. I think I'm sitting on my legs on two sides of the street. Number one, I think AfriForum, they are responsible for where we at, just as much as South Africa, because the stuff that he's saying they've been bringing up to our president and the country at large, we have always deflected and said it's because they want to bring back apartheid. That's the fact, and that's the truth. So we both are to blame in that we haven't made efforts to find each other, and the pressure now has been brought to bear. We are at the breaking point where we should be forced again to get back and talk without the external interference.
All right.
The fact that the Americans are pulling out is no brainer because most of the white people are trading with America and
All right.
Europe.
Thomas, thank you for that. Verna, I'll get you to respond to that as a parting shot, but hold on. Let me take Busiso in Campton Park. Busiso, good morning.
How are you?
Very well, how are you? Please go ahead, short and sharp for me if you don't mind.
AfriForum should realize that we are in it together. If they think they will bring apartheid to South Africa, it will never work. We are not going to budge. Right-wing Americans and right-wing South Africans are trying to bring apartheid in South Africa. Guys, hold on, this ship will be rocky, but we are in it together. We are not going to forfeit our sovereignty because some people want to bring apartheid in South Africa. Thank you, bye-bye.
Thank you for that, Busiso in Campton Park. Verna, as a parting shot from me, the U.S. President Donald Trump is basically keen to have migrants from other countries that actually need to migrate to the United States to have them kicked out. But in the midst of doing all of that, kicking out Mexicans, Canadians, everyone else, he's inviting, in his words, Afrikaners, and it would seem he's talking particularly to your constituency as AfriForum and Solidarity. Are your members keen to take that up?
Yes, there are three things, so I'll do my best to respond as quickly as what I can. I think with regards to the second speaker, and I want to agree with him on this score, we are in this together. We are on the same airplane. If the airplane crashes, all of us will go down. So I agree with him on that. But I do want to plea for being more open to different views, the views that we carry as well. It makes conversation very difficult when you disagree with the government in their policies in the direction of the country. And as soon as you say, I disagree with this, then you get thrown this accusation that you are want to bring back apartheid, you don't want to have poor black people uplifted in various ways, and that is simply not the case. So I think if we can go forward with the discourse to have an understanding that our core is with the policy and the direction it will have on the country as a whole, and one can go into detail how the failed and destructive policies of this nature affected other parts of the world. In relation to your question, and as I said in the beginning, we will not prescribe to any of our members or to anyone what they do or must do or must not do. But we are very clear. We are going nowhere. We issued an Afrikaner declaration last year. That declaration clearly stated that we see our future here. Our goal is to have a sustainable existence as Afrikaners in South Africa.
Right.
We don't see a contradiction between South African and being an Afrikaner. But thank you.
Great. Thank you for that. That's Verna Human, who is the operational head for the Solidarity Movement. Listening to that is Johan Kotze, who is the Agri-SA CEO. Good morning to you, Johan, and thank you for your time. I read your opinion piece on your website. Just take us through, your own take on these executive orders that have been signed by U.S. President Donald Trump on the basis that, he has certain impressions about the South African land reform process, as well as what he says the treatment of certain classes of people in South Africa. You had a nice broad take on it. Just give it to us once again.
Yeah, I think the first thing is, so thank you for being on the show or the radio. So the first thing for us is I never wrote a letter to President Donald Trump. I think it would be arrogant if I did it. What we did was we stood up as agriculture in South Africa. And to define agriculture in South Africa, it goes beyond the whole spectrum. And for us, the focus is about how do we promote and how do we make sure that agriculture in South Africa is sustainable to support the change that we need in South Africa for a better South Africa. So that was out of that perspective that we wrote this. What happened now is a concern, and the concern is not an ethical concern in the sense of an ethical concern. The concern is that agriculture itself is not gonna prosper if we continue with what we see as misinformation and this polarization of our people in South Africa. And out of that context, we wrote this. So for us as Agri-SA, the main focus is not on black and white and Afrikaans and Zulu and Xhosa. Mm-hmm. It's about agriculture in South Africa, of whom our nation, the nation, is kind of embracing this. Yeah. And what for us, what was worrisome is that the moment they took politics to it, it kind of polarized people in agriculture. And that, for Agri-SA, is worrisome.
Well, you were very clear, Johan, on the question of whether or not there have been confiscations of land, expropriation without compensation and the likes, which seems to be the argument from Donald Trump. What is your position on that?
And we said that in the letter. We said we cannot recall that it did happen. Now, in social media, a few cases came up, but you know, it's so easy on social media to do a 10 minutes video out of your context, your perspective. And the context is not taken into consideration of what actually happened there. And what we said as Agri-SA is we didn't see this in the past. If you have a look at our 30 years, we are the only industry that exceeds the annual growth rate of South Africa on GDP level. So agriculture actually, under all the laws that we say that we need to change and that we need to kind of modernize, even now we still played our part and we still were in good standing with economic growth.
Yeah.
We are for modernizing the laws because I think the laws should be modernized to fit the new future of agriculture, not one or two individuals or one or two groupings. And I think that's what Agri-SA kind of alluded to when we said we don't support the fact that the current law is going to create such a problem that we won't be able to function as agriculturists in South Africa.
So do you have platforms of engagement with organizations like AfriForum and the Solidarity Movement? And if you do, have you explored those and what is your message to them?
Remember, we're not a political party. So we focus on agriculture. That's my whole mission is about agriculture and make sure that people are excited about agriculture and that the faith we have as farmers, that faith is stirred and we still stand and say, even though we see the difficulties, we still can conquer. However, as what we have members with us being, say, with Solidarity or wherever they want to be, at the PIC or the ANC, we communicate and we have dialogue regarding this. So this, what happened now, should take up more dialogue to understand the complexity thereof and also explain our situation as agriculture in South Africa in a different way.
Yeah.
But there's no explicit kind of contract or MOU or anything amongst any political party because that's not our job.
All right, gotcha. Johan Kotze, thank you for your time this morning. He's the CEO of Agri-SA. Let's check in now with N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30760. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, potential impact of Trump's tariff plan on the steel industry, and Ndlozi breaks his silence on his EFF exit. Good morning. America's plan to impose a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminium imports could severely affect South Africa. President Donald Trump will unveil the plan today. It's the latest trade escalation since Trump took office 3 weeks ago. The blanket new metal tariff could also impact countries including Canada, Brazil, Mexico and South Korea. Sharon Bryce-Beese reports.
According to the Trading Economics website, the United States imported about $518 million worth of iron and steel from South Africa in 2024 and almost $400 million worth of aluminium in the same year. President Trump told reporters on Air Force One that any steel coming into the United States was going to have a 25% tariff and that the same tariff would be applied to aluminium. During his first term, Trump imposed tariffs of 25% on steel and 10% on aluminium, but later granted several trading partners duty-free exemptions, including Canada, Mexico and Brazil.
Former EFF spokesperson and Member of Parliament Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi has officially resigned from the party. He has finally broken his silence after being quiet for months. Ndlozi has opened up on why he did not attend the EFF's National People's Assembly in Johannesburg in December last year. His absence from the elective Congress sparked speculation that he would resign from the EFF after a fallout with party leader Julius Malema. Ndlozi, who has since left the EFF, has told SABC News in an exclusive interview that he did not attend the Congress because he had been suspended.
Well, I couldn't attend the conference of the EFF, the NPA, because over a dispute over my suspension. I was suspended about 6 weeks before the conference, and the suspension was unconventional in that it didn't rely on the code of conduct of the EFF summoned by its constitution, but largely the suspension rested on 2 counts.
Well, you can listen to Ndlozi's full interview with SABC's political editor Mzwandile Mbeche on our current affairs programs today. The National Assembly will today hold a special sitting in which members will debate the 14 SANDF members who died in the DRC. All members of Cabinet have been requested to attend the debate. The South African soldiers were killed in fighting between the M23 rebels and the Congolese military in eastern DRC. Their bodies are in Uganda in the process of their repatriation. President Cyril Ramaphosa has directed that the national flag be flown at half-mast at all flag stations around the country until Friday. Abra Babia reports.
Aside from Monday's urgent debate, Parliament is yet to decide how else to commemorate the 14 soldiers. Since their deaths in Goma in January, members of Parliament have called for clarity on the well-being of SANDF soldiers in the DRC. While MPs have again criticized the ongoing underfunding of the SANDF, saying the capacitation of deployed members is sacrosanct.
The Limpopo Transport MEC Violet Matye says they will begin the process of identifying the bodies of victims of the Hoedspruit crash today. 13 people, including a child, were killed in a collision between a van and a taxi on Saturday.
One of the occupants in that taxi was a young child who was going to school in Hoedspruit because it was a sports day. I received a number and the names of all those that perished on the accident, the 13 of them. But the police, the hospital management are going to continue with the identification of the body through the DNA. So we'll be waiting for the report from the hospital management as well as the law enforcement. All the processes of identifying who are those people are going to be started because those people bend beyond recognition.
And finally, a local council in southwestern England is taking the unusual step of closing a road for 6 weeks. The aim is to allow toads, frogs and newts to cross to their breeding grounds. Every year, vehicles kill hundreds of amphibians near the city of Bath. The BBC's Nikki Cardwell reports.
It's a hard life for Britain's common toad. Climate change is making their usual habitats less habitable, building work is dividing their territories, and cars make migration hazardous. The toad population in the UK has fallen by 68% over the past 30 years. The threat is now so great that Bath and North East Somerset Council has taken the unusual step of closing one road for 6 weeks during peak breeding season to protect the thousands of amphibians trying to reach a lake to breed.
Recapping the top story, America's plan to impose a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminium imports could severely affect South Africa. President Donald Trump will unveil the plan today. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
There are many love languages, but at Outsurance, their love language is savings. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. Why wait? Get a quote today. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just a heads up, if you're driving into Durban from the south coast, we're now reporting about crash number 5 in the last couple of hours on this N2 between the M4 Southern Freeway split and the Higginson Highway. None of them significant enough to really back things up, but there must be something, maybe an oil spillage. It's about sort of half a kilometre before you get to the exit, up to the exit. That point there, that's where these crash scenes have been happening with great regularity this morning. Staying in Durban, a breakdown on the N2 South before Kwamashu. Very heavy backlogs back to Umhlanga. A lot of traffic ducking out of that and jamming up the M41 M4 route down through Virginia Airport territory. Joburg crash on the N3 North coming up into Spruitview, so that's heavy from Vosloorus side today. And Cape Town, no traffic lights right in the heart of Epping, Jake Skirville and Viking Way. There is traffic all over that junction. And the N2 inbound from the airport's heavy, driving up to a crash before you get to the N7 Jake Skirville off-ramp as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Soccer. The Premier Soccer League is facing a significant dilemma in the Royal AM situation. We'll unpack that with a legal expert. And we also have, well, our very own champion, middleweight champion, Dricus du Plessis, saying his win against Sean Strickland stamps his authority in the division. All these sports stories and more at around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
10 minutes after 7. It's good to be in your company. We're into the second hour of the morning brief here on SAFM. At about 10 to 8 thereabouts, we'll be speaking to Toivo Njebela, who is the editor-in-chief of the Namibian Sun. This as Africa remembers a giant of our history. That is Sam Nujoma, the founding president of Namibia, who has passed on at the age of 95. Look out for that conversation. Sipho Mandula, of course, will have started it all in his Africa report just a few minutes before we speak to Toivo there. But that's one of the stories that we have in store for you. The other stories in this half hour, we continue our focus on the US-South Africa relationship. We have multiple takes on it. The first one generally on the diplomatic spat and the back and forth that we have seen. I'll be speaking to Angelo Fick, who is the Director of Research at the AWAL Social Economic Research Institute in the next few minutes. But then we'll give you another take that has to do with the business perspective, given the likely implications around the freeze on funding for aid, but also the concerns that if this issue, this tension continues to escalate, it could spill over in other areas of the economy. We'll then give you the take of Business Unity South Africa that's coming up at about 20 past 7 or thereabouts. And then we'll also give you another take that looks specifically at this offer of resettlement that has been given by Donald Trump to South Africa's Afrikaner population. We'll look at the legal aspects of it to say, how does it all work, this whole issue of refugee status and it being granted in the manner that it is by Donald Trump in the United States. Those are some of the stories we will cover. Feel free to raise these and other issues. The number to dial 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The second hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Whether you're having a morning or a morning, you woke up like this? Or like this? Mornings love McDonald's. So, choose happy and enjoy a short filter coffee for only R14.90 at McDonald's. What's not to?
Oh, oui, oui, Jessica, I Citroën you. You are my chérie de go. I am your wild track ranger.
What are you doing?
I'm just looking on We Buy Cars' website for what I'm getting you for Valentine's Day.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, they have a nationwide spin and win promotion where you can score a guaranteed prize of up to 10,000 Rand when you purchase a car.
Ooh, now that's romantic.
There's also hundreds of discounted auction vehicles available.
So what are we waiting for?
See you this Valentine's Day weekend at We Buy Cars, the easiest way to buy and sell a car by far.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned. And almost 100,000 businesses trust OUTsurance.
We're in the private security industry, and by switching to OUTsurance, we save 785 rand a month. It's an extra tank of fuel, it's extra reward money that we pay our officers. When it comes to insurance, OUTsurance is our security company.
For your business insurance, contact OUTsurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43328 for immediate cover, or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer in FSP. T's and C's online.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
14 minutes after 7 on this Monday. Let's start this hour with this. President Cyril Ramaphosa says there is no single group that faces persecution in South Africa. This comes after U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order to cut financial assistance to this country for what he says is quote-unquote race-based discrimination against Afrikaners. On Saturday, Ramaphosa's spokesperson Vincent Magwenya told the Daily Maverick that the president hoped Trump would follow through on his promise to investigate the implementation of South Africa's land reform policies so he can find facts about the country. Let's take the conversation forward. I'm joined by Angelo Fick, who is the Director of Research at the Awal Socio-Economic Research Institute. Good morning to you, Angelo. Long time, is there such an expression as long time no speak? Long time no speak, Angelo. But under these circumstances, are we still looking at a diplomatic standoff between South Africa and the United States that is purely and genuinely based on a difference of opinion about policies in South Africa, or is this an issue of pretext that masks actions that the United States has wanted to take for a long time regarding other policies, particularly at a global stage?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Absolutely. This is, I think, a far more complicated issue than just South Africa's domestic politics. It's also about the United States' domestic politics and a changing global environment. So it is not a simple matter of Mr. Trump and his administration reading the South African land restitution legislation and deciding to intervene. It's part of a package of moves against what in the United States is called the dismantling of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusivity legislation in the United States. And it's part of a white nationalist project in American politics. And my sense is that there are South African political actors who, even in his first term of office, courted Mr. Trump around the issue of what they see as the erosion of the rights of white minorities. That, of course, is not factually supported. And so what's interesting is that South Africa is not the only state that is in the crosshairs and pays for the consequences of the United States' internal dynamics. The Prime Minister of Denmark had to have a tough telephone call with Mr. Trump about the invasion of Greenland. And in his executive order, Mr. Trump links directly his actions around this concern around land reform with South Africa's position at the ICJ about the state of Israel and about American foreign policy interests. And so it's not a simple matter of rescuing people are in danger.
So what does the moment represent for us, Angelo? And I know it sounds like a bit of a one of these big existential questions. What is the meaning of life? But what does this moment represent for us as a nation, given our own dynamics and our own differences, sometimes on policy, sometimes on issues that come and legacies of our past? How do we smartly navigate this moment while at the same time being robust in our response to the United States, but remaining true to our cause as a nation?
So I think it's important for South Africans to not panic. I think it's important to recognize the policy instability in the United States and the back and forth changes in just the last 3 weeks from Mr. Trump's administration about proposals through executive order that then get pulled back. Secondly, South Africans need to recognize that in South Africa, democratic South Africa, we have internal mechanisms to hold executive power to check and to intervene should we find legislation does not work in our favor. There is the separation of powers between Parliament and the executive, but we also have the right to appeal to the courts. I think we need to be very uneasy about political actors who claim that they're going to go extraterritorial, they're going to appeal to people outside of South Africa to undermine what is a democratic process. Even if pieces of legislation do not find you in your heart and you disagree with it, you need to use the internal mechanisms. If, however, you find that the internal mechanisms don't work for you, then you maybe need to think, as we all do, whether the South Africa we want to inhabit is necessarily the one that every one of us want to inhabit. And I think here, the majority of South Africans want to live in a society of equality, peace and prosperity, and some of that means unmaking the past and remaking the future. And those who don't want to play that game, we should be cautious about indulging them when they go extraterritorial and suggest that they want to live in a different South Africa where the democratic process can be undermined, subverted or bypassed.
All right. Thank you for your views and your perspectives and insights. That's Angelo Fick, who is the Director of Research at the Awal Socio-Economic Research Institute. Listening to that conversation is the Business Unity South Africa CEO, and that is Khulegani Mathe. Good morning to you, Khulegani, and thank you for your time. So we call it tit for tat, a spat, diplomatic spat, but underlying all of it, of course, is the ranking of the United States as one of South Africa's big trade partners. Right now, we're talking about Mr. Trump's executive orders affecting aid funding to South Africa. But is there concern that this could escalate and touch other areas such as trade and investment?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and to the listeners of SAF. Look, it is difficult to tell what the Trump administration will do next. But we obviously have to do our best to avert the worst situation to the extent that we can as a country, because as we have said, the United States remains our second largest trading partner. And so like any good business, you cannot just keep quiet, do nothing when your biggest customer is unhappy with your product or something of the sort. So I think the efforts announced by President Ramaphosa to send a delegation to the United States, among other capitals, to explain our position is a correct one, because we do need to engage. It is in our interest to engage.
Yeah. And how much concern is there for, I've heard the program AGOA, Africa Growth and Opportunities Act, which has been renewed consistently by each and every successive United States president and Congress since it was first implemented by former President George W. Bush. There's great concern around that. What would be the impact if that were not to be renewed, or perhaps South Africa excluded from it?
So the issue of South Africa's participation in AGOA has been going on for a while. As you know, even before the coming into office of President Trump's administration, there had been congressmen who called for a review of the relationship. And going back as far as 2014, there were calls for South Africa to be excluded simply on the grounds of being a middle-income country who do not qualify for the AGOA program. So that's been there, but of course, in this context, it comes with other sort of issues such as we know, the withdrawal of funding for aid, etc. So that is a concern, because it clearly indicates a change in attitude of an administration. And when that happens, as I said earlier, there's no telling what else can be done, whether, we get excluded from AGOA, whether tariffs are slapped on us and so on. So those are all concerns, and that's why we have got to do everything in our power to make sure that the relationship is mended.
Lastly, Khulegani, and very quickly, is there a platform and room for the business conversation to continue, even as it looks like the diplomatic and political conversation is breaking down? Are there avenues through which the business and investment conversation can continue between South Africa and the United States, even as the politicians disagree?
Not officially, Thulasizwe, but of course, it's important for us through, working with our counterparts in the US, who we have a very good relationship with, other business organizations, to really make them understand our position, especially on an issue such as the Expropriation Act, which the decision by the Trump administration was simply based on incomplete, inaccurate information. For us to put together the facts from a business point of view would help make the community, the business community, the investor community in the US understand that all of those are untrue, and as business, we are comfortable with the legislation as it is.
All right. Thank you for your time and your perspectives this morning. That's Khulegani Mathe, who is the CEO of Business Unity South Africa.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices can make our children sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, which could lead to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they age. We must protect them from drinks high in sugar. Demand a stricter health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on heala.org. That's HEALA.org.
The Yellow Guys have a top-class plan to play elite rugby to remain in the top 5. But second-place Giants, the Red and Blacks are undoubtedly chasing the first position. This is the top 14. Clermont-Auvergne collides with Stade Thulasizwe on Sunday, 16 February at 10 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Outsurance Essential is low-cost insurance for older cars. Annalie, a 39-year-old woman, pays only 291 Rand a month for her 2005 Hyundai Getz 1.5. With Outsurance Essential, accident claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. Top this up with the motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 Rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
26 minutes after 7. Let's continue our focus on the story, take another aspect at it. According to the South African Chamber of Commerce in the United States, thousands of white South Africans have made requests to be granted refugee status in the United States. But what does being granted refugee status actually mean for your citizenship? Let's take that conversation forward. I'm joined by Ashraf Esop, who is an attorney in immigration. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. So when you hear that Donald Trump is saying that he's granting, measures that will enable South African Afrikaners to be resettled in the United States, how does that fit in with what we know about the international law underpinnings of immigration law?
Well, I think the underpinnings is more towards the refugee law, which is the topic that we are trying to assess on refugee law versus citizenship. So let's just talk about citizenship for one. South African Citizenship Act is the premium document, piece of legislation that determines the acquisition, retention and loss of citizenship. And the Department of Home Affairs is the only governmental body that is entrusted with the verification and custodian of our identification and status. The Constitution makes it clear that citizenship is a very, very important part of our existence, and certain rights only accrue to citizens, such as the right to leave and to re-enter the Republic and the right to be in possession of a South African passport. The Citizenship Act, on the other hand, will determine whether there was loss or deprivation of citizenship. So the question is, what impacts citizenship in such a way that you may lose it? in the past, acquiring a citizenship of another country without applying to retain South African citizenship resulted in automatic loss. That matter went all the way to the Supreme Court of Appeals, which held that merely taking out the citizenship of another country through whatever means and failing to apply to retain cannot overcome the right to citizenship. So you cannot automatically lose it. So the position is, with retrospective effect, you cannot lose it. Now let's turn to refugee. So every country, there's no universal refugee law. Every country has its own refugee system. You remember some time ago, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, the erstwhile minister then said, look, it's too loose. I want to tighten it up. I want to have exemptions, etc., etc. But there is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And that is a document that a government becomes a party to if it accepts and ratifies it into law. And therein is guidance. Generally speaking, asylum is granted and refugee status granted to people that have left some country where their lives were seriously threatened by some internal or external aggression. So I don't think what we're looking at is him granting refugee status. We already know there are about 100,000 South Africans working on H1 visas, which is the agricultural visa in the US. So those people are given short-term visas.
Right.
Now, in the past, people have attempted to flee South Africa. There was a case where a guy went to Canada and made all kinds of statements, and they failed him. So they said, because where's the evidence of mass-scale oppression or war?
Ashraf,
Yes.
I'd like to move us on quite rapidly. When situations such as these play themselves out, you start hearing conversations that say some among us hold 2 passports and therefore have the luxury that should things go south in a terrible way in this country, they can simply whip out their second passport. What are the implications from what you just described now about citizenship and dual citizenship? But what are the implications of people that hold 2 passports, not only in terms of their loyalty to South Africa, but legally? What's their status?
Well, they're dual citizens, which is legal. But as you point out, it's very easy just to leave and stay somewhere else and basically take the advantage of that other citizenship. And a lot of that applies to our, citizens of this country that have European citizenry, or, some of them have dual citizenship elsewhere. So, they can easily leave South Africa. The only hindrance being in terms of the births and deaths registries, the Passport and Identifications Act, is you got to enter and leave on your South African citizenship. You cannot pretend to be a foreigner when you enter South Africa as a South African citizen. The legal implications of citizenship all over the world is that you can call on your government to assist you wherever you are. You remember during the COVID pandemic, citizens only were allowed to return to South Africa and permanent residence permit holders. It didn't extend to everyone else with a visa or any other right of entry. So you can see how important that is. And in the matter of Kaunda versus the president many, many years ago, there was an attempted coup in, I think it was Equatorial Guinea. And the South Africans that were arrested as part of those mercenaries called on the South African government for assistance, for even though they had committed a crime or were about to commit a crime. And so that is the reach of citizenship. You can call on your government.
Thank you so much. I've got to thank you. I've got to leave it there. That's Ashraf Esop, who is an immigration attorney. Let's check in now with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us in the headlines. Search and rescue operations for illegal miners trapped in a disused mine in Roodepoort in Western Johannesburg are set to resume this morning. It's not clear how many they are. America's plan to impose a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminium imports could severely affect South Africa. President Donald Trump will unveil the plan today. And former EFF spokesperson and Member of Parliament, Dr. Thulasizwe has decided to leave party politics. He has left the EFF after months of speculation. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Busy coming in from the south side of Joburg. Crash on the N3 at Sprayfields just before you get to the Heidelberg Road off-ramp. Traffic very heavily backed all the way to Barry Rare. So that's a big queue if you're in from Phosphorus, Sprayfield side this morning. Just staying south, South Rand Road has a lot of traffic lights out as you come off the R59 across the Heidelberg Road. So a lot of backlogging going on there as well. Lights are also a problem on Atlas and North Rand Road. So that side of Ekurhuleni is quite heavily backed up. Crash on the M1 South near the Ultra City. Mid-Rand sides are coming through from Centurion, busy. And a crash on the Mopani Highway a little bit earlier around the bend down to Bremer, causing a delay from Theo Martins. Durban, breakdown has been with us most of the morning. N2 southbound going down towards Komashu Highway, except traffic's pretty heavy. If you're in from the airport, it's backlog almost to Sabaya. The rest of Durban looking fairly standard. Bit of traffic between Toti and Tweeny Hill this morning, which is a little bit unusual. Cape Town, first day of the new academic year at Stellenbosch University. All approaches into Stellenbosch are pretty heavily backed up, especially the run-up from Somerset West and the run-in from the Baden-Powell Junction side. No traffic lights, Jake Scoville and the Viking Way causing a big mess right in the heart of Epping. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you once again. So the PSL sits with one major headache, right? What to do with Royal AM?
What to do, Tulas? Please help me here.
You.
So Royal AM wanted a court to let them play, but the PSL said, is it objection sustained or objection denied? Yeah, that's the $1 million question. So that's the PSL. Big headache. They owe SARS 40 million rand and their games remain suspended. Nedbank Cup is resuming this weekend. The league must decide how to handle their fixture against Milford FC, which determines Sekhukhune United's next opponent. To make matters worse, Royal AM players, they've stopped training, and that's due to unpaid salaries. Legal expert Mandla Shabalala warns the situation isn't straightforward.
There is a third party that is in charge of Royal AM, which is a curator appointed by SARS. Remember, the club is an asset and the owners are owing SARS. So SARS attaches so that they recover their money. Now, the dilemma that the NFL is facing is there is a commitment that they make to the sponsors that in the PSL, for example, we want to give you so many games to televise. When I'm referring to sponsors, I'm specifically referring to the TV rights, so broadcasting. So there's so many matches that we are giving to you to broadcast. Now, if you don't fulfill that obligation, now it could easily be a breach of contract.
Now, the South African men's indoor hockey men's team secured their first medal in history. They defeated Belgium 6-5 in the bronze medal match of the FIH Indoor Hockey World Cup in Croatia yesterday. And now we go live. That's to the Gaddafi Stadium in Pakistan for the ODI Tri-Series, where South Africa are currently on 61-1, and this is after 14.1 overs. It's a one-off ODI against New Zealand. Matthew Britska is anchoring the innings with 28, and that's off 46 balls. So, yeah, while Jay Smith is settling in with 5 of 16 balls. So, New Zealand won the toss, and they opted to bowl first. And finally, some other cricket action. MI Cape Town showing a dominant display with a 76-run win over the Sunrisers Eastern Cape to deny the two-time winners their hat-trick chase in an entertaining SA20 final at the Wanderers Stadium. Speaking at a post-match presser, Khan says he's happy with their 2025 turnaround strategy.
Last year and a year before, we were bottom of the table, and then coming up, finishing the top of the table, and then winning the final. And I think we got most points in the group stages as well. That something was amazing, and winning 5 with these 6 games with the bonus point, I think that's unbelievable. And that shows how everyone contributed in the win. And I'm so happy, the way we have contributed as a team.
And that's a wrap of your morning brief sport. We'll swing by at the top of the hour, bringing you more sport and live updates as the Proteas are taking on New Zealand in this Tri-Nation series. All this and more, top of the hour.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to you once again, Dowling. So food prices, you are telling us that at a global level, perhaps in South Africa it's a different conversation, but at a global level, you are saying food prices are easing.
That's right, Thulas. Now, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization Food Price Index that tracks monthly changes in a basket of internationally traded food commodities, prices fell to 124.9 points last month, down from 127 in December. This decline was largely attributed to improved global supply prospects, particularly in the sugar market, which saw prices fall 6.8% due to favorable weather conditions in Brazil and India's resumption of sugar exports. Vegetable oil prices also dropped 5.6% as palm and rapeseed oil prices fell, while soy and sunflower oil quotations remained stable. The decline in vegetable oil prices was driven by increased production and improved supply prospects. Meat prices, in the meantime, fell 1.7%, while cereal prices edged higher, up 0.3%. The increase in cereal prices was due to a rise in maize, which was offset by a decline in wheat prices. In contrast, dairy prices rose 2.4% on a month-on-month basis and 20.4% on a year-on-year basis, which was led by a surge in cheese quotations. Now, the increase in dairy prices was driven by strong demand and limited supply. Analysts, in the meantime, say the decline in global food prices is a positive development, particularly for consumers who have been facing high food prices in recent months.
And I don't know, Dowling, do I remember correctly, China is the one that was facing a deflation issue, right? So it seems their measures to counter deflation are finally paying off because inflation is sort of, stabilizing?
Stabilizing, yes, but not reaching the levels they would like it to reach. So those deflation concerns still remain to us. The Asian countries' inflation, consumer inflation that is, accelerating to its fastest pace in 5 months in January, but it's only at 0.5% on an annual basis. Core inflation, in the meantime, quickened to 0.6% in January from 0.4% in the previous month. Despite this sudden turnaround, producer price inflation, deflation persists on that front, reflecting weak factory activity and overcapacity in industrial goods. So what we are seeing is a bit of that stimulus coming through and supporting consumers on that front. So analysts expect deflationary pressures to persist, though, unless policymakers can release even more stimulus. China, of course, is dealing with a consumption slowdown as consumers spend less due to the downbeat economy. This also being highlighted by many corporates, with many companies pointing to slowing sales in China in their reports. Now, the inflation data was skewed also by seasonal factors, with prices rising for food, airplane tickets, and tourism-related activities because we had the Lunar New Year in that period as well. Consumer spending reports were mixed, reflecting concerns over wage and job security. Now, the inflation data and contracting manufacturing activity have kept alive those calls for even further stimulus measures by policymakers and the government.
Please give us our second roundup of market activity for this morning.
So Asian markets still mixed at this hour, with traders really assessing the impact Trump's tariffs could have on global trade. Now, those jitters not necessarily impacting the Hong Kong Hang Seng. That index up 1.6%, really being influenced by a rally in Chinese tech stocks. Over in the US, futures in the green, recovering from Friday's losses. Investors on that front are also analyzing Trump's recent plan to impose tariffs with 25% 25% on steel and aluminium imports. Here at home, sentiment still quite upbeat, with the JSE closing the week Friday, that is, in positive territory. The ore share gaining just over 0.33% in that session's close. The rand, in the meantime, still remaining steady at 18.50 to the dollar this hour.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ndauling Lichela. You can look out for one more update from Ndauling, and that's coming up after 8:30 here on the Morning Brief.
We've upgraded. Our new GIS-linked national address database lets us connect with you better than ever before. By visualizing licensed and unlicensed households nationwide, we can ensure timely communication. Our payment reminders are a crucial tool to help you stay compliant and avoid penalties, empowering you to take proactive steps. Efficient electronic communication helps us collect fees seamlessly, bolstering the SABC's mandate in line with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act. TV licenses. Pay yours, make a difference.
Defending champions are eager to display a top-class brand of football to emphasize why they are Wienerkusen, while the Bavarians are confident this is their season. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch the Battle of Giants, Bayer Leverkusen FC versus Bayern München FC on Saturday, 15 February at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
39-year-old Zageti loves Outsurance Essential because it's low-cost insurance designed for older cars. For her 2011 VW Polo 1.6 Trendline, she only pays 525 Rand a month. With Outsurance Essential, you get up to 1 million Rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car could be covered for up to 1 million Rand. Add even more value with the motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 Rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Africa Update on SAFM.
And we start with Sipho Mantula this morning on a sad note, Sipho, coming out of Namibia, the passing on of Sam Nujoma.
Refreshing morning to us and Jump Africa to the listeners. Indeed, to us, when you look at the Kulu Samuel, Shapishunai, Daniel Nujoma, transitioning at the age of 95, we'll say to us is the last generation of African leaders who brought their countries out of colonial or white minority rule. You'll recall Nelson Mandela, Robert Mugabe, Kenneth Kaunda, Julius Kabaranga Nyerere, Samora Machel. Hence, there's a picture that has been moving around Samuel, Daniel, Wakanu Joma, Tulas. And what is important is that yesterday the outgoing president was the one who have shared this message with the nation of Namibia and broadly with the SADC region about the passing of the founding father of Namibia. When exiled for 30 years, Tulas, in Tanzania, he went also to get military training in Algeria, and that's how when we look at Sam Nujoma, in Tulas, when I watched one of his interviews, he spoke about how he gave PW Botha a stroke when they defeated the then SADC government.
Yeah. May his soul rest in peace, Wenasipo. In the next few minutes, we'll be talking to Toivo Njebela, who is the editor-in-chief of the Namibian Sun newspaper. Tell me what came out of the East Africa Community and SADC Summit of Leaders over the weekend.
Plus, we know that Felix Tshisekedi attended virtually, but that meeting called for an immediate ceasefire in the Eastern DRC. There was the call for the president of DRC, Felix Tshisekedi, to engage directly with the M23 leadership, because you cannot talk to us amongst yourself, East Africa and SADC and Rwanda, and you leave the major parties, the main negative forces in the Eastern DRC, and that's where there was a call for the engagement. Also, they've looked at the defense chiefs to engage to us for a period of within 4 weeks on dealing with the question of the Eastern DRC. Hence, I said the dialogue will be weak to us if you don't bring the M23. Despite that, there's an international warrant of arrest that was issued against General or the Colonel Cornelia Nanga, and that's how it makes things difficult. But it seems to us everything went well in Tanzania in terms of that engagement.
Right. In West Africa, tell me about the imminent handover of the French military base in Abidjan being handed over back to the government of Ivory Coast.
As we are doing the countdown, it will be only in the next coming 10 days. On the 20th of February, the 43rd Bima camp, which is the Marine Infantry Battalion that was in Abidjan, will be handed over to the government of Ivory Coast coming from France. But that will not also say France is moving out to that. They are taking just a short retreat, as we know that they are still there. We have 1,000 soldiers who will be moving out, but 80 soldiers will still be remaining in Ivory Coast. We know that Senegal is also planning during this year to withdraw the French armies in Dakar.
And in Sudan, there's rapid movement in terms of the the lay of the land on the ground, and as far as the battle is concerned, it seems we're at a stage where a new government could even be formed after the government says it has recaptured Khartoum.
Even if they say the new government will be formed, this is the new principle. They say a technocratic wartime government will be formed, and that comes from Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. A very critical concept to us when you look at that RSF have been ravaging some of the areas from the west, from the south, but also from the north. But having captured Khartoum, the government of Sudan feels that they are ready to form this government, and others have called, whether it's the government of the wartime or whether they are calling it a government of national unity. What is important to us is that you have carnage and you have death that have been going on since 2023. There is a need for either a government of transition led by civilians.
And lastly, Sipho, in your historical archives, this one is from 10 February 1987, and it has resonance even today.
Absolutely, Thulas. When you look at the debate that has been going on, the American foreign policy towards us, Thulas, used to use the concept constructive engagement. And this was in the Reagan era, when he was dealing with the apartheid regime of South Africa. So on this day, Thulas, they had to adjust that because of the growing condemnation of apartheid as a crime against humanity. So you will understand from your Jimmy Carter, from your Reagan, from Bush, there was this change of thinking about the real history of South Africa. Now, when you hear Donald Trump with this, what I'll call Thulas, a misinterpretation, badly written executive order that we need to critique, actually. It's a badly written executive order that we must critique, and we must no longer rely on the so-called American Developmental Fund. Thulas, it's high time for Africa to develop and fund its own programs. There is no need for the U.S. foreign policy to begin to dominate African geopolitics. Asante sana Thulas, as was leading the conversation, SAFM observing the Plexus remarks.
All right, that's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update here on the Morning Brief.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Crash on the busy Mopori Highway this morning, just before the hairpin bend, so it's all backing up through Theo Martin. Staying in the capital, the N4 inbound, very heavy this morning, backlogging through Watermeer. The N14, the Krugersdorp Highway, that is standing literally from the R55. Pretoria West exit all the way up to Brockfontein Interchange Territory. Four ways to get a mess, hardly a traffic light working in the four ways region. And the crash on the N3 North at Spruitview, still holding traffic coming in from Phosphorus. The crash just before you get to the Heidelberg Road off-ramps, causing quite a big backlog through there. Busy now up at Cliffdale. Looks like something's probably broken down on your way to Pietermaritzburg. It's got that sort of feel about it from Key Ridge. Quite a heavy queue building. The N2 in Durban, a breakdown earlier this morning before you get to the KwaZulu Highway. Taking absolute forever to clear. It's a really big delay. If you're coming in from the airport, there's a very heavy backlog on the N2 down through Sabaya Gateway down towards KwaZulu. There's a big spillover on the M41 exiting the N2 down to a very busy M4. Southern Southern Freeway. Fields Hill is quite busy as well, coming from Kloof down the hill in towards the Pinetown area. Cape Town, lights are out. Jakes Kerwell and Viking Way. That's heavy. A crash on Francie Van Sale at 35th Avenue. That's also a very busy junction. And first day of the new academic year in Stellenbosch. If you're on your way to Stellenbosch wondering what all the traffic fuss is about, that's it. The university opens today. R44 from Somerset West. R310, Baden-Powell extension onto Adam Tuss and the running from Kaya Mundi. It's all heavily jammed. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned. And almost 100,000 businesses trust Outsurance.
Switching to Outsurance has definitely saved me money. 2,107 rands per month. I would recommend Outsurance to all business owners because they will definitely save money. With Outsurance, you always get something out.
For your business insurance, contact Outsurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43328 for immediate cover or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer in FSP. T's and C's online.
V up your 2025 with Vodacom Business and Galaxy AI. Save up to 20,000 Rand with trade-in when you pre-order the new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra 256 gig on a Red Business 1.5 gig plan for just 1,539 Rand per month over 24 months. Enhance your deal with the Samsung Galaxy Watch 7 eSIM for 69 Rand extra per month. Available in-store and online. Further together. Vodacom Business.
Hey neighbor, what happened to you last night? We were vibing, watching the game, and then our team scored, and the next thing you were gone.
Skis, I missed the goal. You know, just before our team scored, Eskom came and then our electricity was disconnected.
Yo, so much drama. What happened?
We got a fine for buying electricity tokens from an illegal vendor.
And then your fancy orange jumpsuit?
Oh, just in case I get arrested for not paying the fine, Pela.
Ungathatha chance. Buy your electricity legally. Stop buying electricity from illegal vendors and tampering with electricity meters. Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
All right, this is a story of much historical significance. Dr. Sam Nujoma, who was the first post-colonial president of Namibia, has passed away at the age of 95 in Windhoek, the country's capital, and that happened on Saturday. Nujoma was a pivotal figure in Namibia's struggle for independence from South Africa. He became the country's first president after independence and held office until 2005. Let's speak now to Toivo Njebela, who is the editor-in-chief of the Namibian Sun newspaper. Good morning to you, Toivo, and condolences to you and the people of Namibia. There's a reason why many South Africans, when they're reflecting on Sam Nujoma, it's almost natural that the parallels are drawn, that he was a peer of Nelson Mandela. Tell me about the mood, about the passing on of the man considered the father of the nation in Namibia.
Yeah, good morning, Thulas. Thank you for having me. So I think the old man has been sickly for nearly 3 weeks, and there's been a lot of speculation on social media and elsewhere, and his family has been very open about the fact that he was critically ill. In fact, they used the term critically on purpose so that somehow we were ready that it was just a matter of time before he passed. So in terms of preparedness, I think the nation was already had given up. They knew that he will pass somehow, but of course that doesn't take away the sadness. We are extremely sad. He is our foremost liberation icon, and he has left an indelible mark on the Namibian liberation and even post-independence arena.
Yeah, and tell me about some of the key threads that run through the reflections. Let's start firstly with his leadership of the independence and anti-apartheid struggle.
Yeah, so I think the first thing that we are really grateful for as Namibians is that when our country became independent on 21 March 1990, the first pronouncement that Sam Nujoma made at the time was to declare a policy of national reconciliation, and that has helped achieve some cohesion, especially between the warring parties, because the white people in particular were scared that there will be retributions and reprisals for their role in the apartheid era. that black people suffered greatly from. But I think that was key in really stabilizing the country, and none of those fears came to pass. And the country then became, Sam Nujoma, for example, in the 90s, he consolidated our democracy and freedoms that we continue to enjoy today. And we think that if a dangerous precedent was set during his first term in office, where maybe he was autocratic or disregarded some of the basic human rights and whatnot, that would have become the norm in the country. So he set that foundation for us to be where we are today.
Yeah. Tell me a bit more about the policies that he championed. I was reading somewhere about policies about, for instance, maintenance payments for children by absent fathers, as well as breaking down some of the traditional patriarchal practices.
Yeah, he is. There's a lot of policy positions that he adopted. He was, for example, obsessed with education because he knew that for the country to prosper, it needed a good pool of human resources, especially in your high-end kind of jobs, your engineerings, your witty financial positions like accountants, chartered accountants, and stuff like that. He wanted fathers to, because we also have a small population, and he wanted men to be really men in the true sense of the word. Going out there, taking care of families, taking care of children. He wanted children to be well fed 3 times a day minimum and stuff like that. Things that sound basic, but because the man was inspirational, they resonated with a lot of people. I think one of the shortcomings of his legacy, and that went on to become also the shortcoming of his 3 successors, is the policy on land redistribution, because land, like in South Africa, continues to be largely in the hands of minority white Namibians. Maybe 70% of proper land is in the hands of white Namibians, and that because Namibia, of course, tried to avoid the path that Zimbabwe and other, particularly Zimbabwe, that took and that has left a bit of frustration among the black majorities to date, perhaps a dark spot on his legacy.
All right, I've got to thank you for those reflections. That's Toyivon Jebela, who is the editor-in-chief of the Namibian Sun newspaper. Brings us to 8 a.m. and Musa on standby with your latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30760. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, Roodepoort mine rescue operation to resume and potential impact of Trump's tariff plan on the steel industry. Good morning. Search and rescue operations for illegal miners trapped in a disused mine in Roodepoort in Western Johannesburg are set to resume this morning. It's not clear how many there are. There's also no clarity on the condition they are in. Johannesburg Emergency Services spokesperson Robert Mulahaudzi says the operation was called off yesterday due to safety concerns. America's plan to impose a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminium imports could severely affect South Africa. President Donald Trump will unveil the plan today. It's the latest trade escalation since Trump took office 3 weeks ago. The blanket new metal tariff could also impact countries including Canada, Brazil, Mexico and South Korea. Sharon Bryce-Peace reports.
According to the Trading Economics website, the United States imported about $518 million worth of iron and steel from South Africa in 2024 and almost $400 million worth of aluminium in the same year. President Trump told reporters on Air Force One that any steel coming into the United States was going to have a 25% tariff and that the same tariff would be applied to aluminium. During his first term, Trump imposed tariffs of 25% on steel and 10% on aluminium, but later granted several trading partners duty-free exemptions, including Canada, Mexico and Brazil.
Former EFF spokesperson and Member of Parliament Dr. Simelane has decided to leave party politics. He has left the EFF after months of speculation. Ndlozi says he has shifted his focus away from politics after months of introspection. Speaking in an exclusive interview with SABC News, he explains his next move.
I have left the EFF. I have left party politics. EFF is a political party. I have handed over my resignation as a member, and it is because where I want to go and contribute, I can't hold a single party membership. But overall, I think that I've made my contribution, and I think that there are brilliant young men and women, old men and women as well, in the space that will continue in that category, as it were, of party politics.
The DA in Limpopo has called on the Provincial Transport Department to enhance the visibility of traffic officers. This after 13 people, including a child, were killed in a collision between a bakkie and a taxi on the R40 road outside Hoedspruit on Saturday. 3 other people were injured. The DA's provincial spokesperson, Mari Helem, says the party is pleased that a local non-governmental organization has volunteered to offer the bereaved families counseling services.
The DA in Limpopo sends its heartfelt condolences to the family members. We also call upon the Limpopo traffic road officials to be more visible and enforce traffic laws at all times. There must be zero tolerance approach against traffic offenders. We wish those who were injured speedy recovery.
And finally, political analyst Rui Shitende says the late former Namibian President Sam Nuyoma's influence had dwindled following the end of his term in 2005. He died on Saturday evening at the age of 95. He has led Namibia to independence from South Africa in 1990 and became the country's first democratically elected president. Nuyoma also co-founded the Southwest Africa People's Organization in 1960. Shitende says, like South Africa's ANC, Namibia's governing party SWAPO has lost voter confidence.
After the second term of former President Pohamba, his influence dissipated over time because there were now new forces that have emerged, the likes of the late President Hage Geingob, the likes of Hidipo Hamutenya. But still, that influence was not as strong as it used to be shortly after he stepped down as state president as well as president of the party. As we speak, SWAPO is in the political intensive care unit, just like the ANC of South Africa as former liberation movements that turned into government, for the fundamental reasons that they've been neglecting the material conditions of people.
Recapping the top story, the search and rescue operations for illegal miners trapped in a disused mine in Roodepoort in Western Johannesburg are set to resume this morning. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
This month, don't just treat yourself to some chocolates. You could also treat yourself to some great car insurance savings. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's online.
Very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Let's go live to the Gaddafi Stadium in New Zealand, are taking on the Proteas, and they're off to a steady start, the Proteas. 101 for 1 after 21 overs. And we look at the PSL, who are facing a major headache with Royal AM. All this and more at around 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Stays heavy on that N14, the Krugersdorp Highway if you're Pretoria bound this morning. Some really big standstill of traffic from the R55 Pretoria West exit up to Brockfontein interchange territory. Still slow, although it is starting to move. Phosphorus to Spruitview, N3 North after an earlier crash there this morning. Durban and surrounds rain, so take it easy, please. A breakdown at Cliffdale on your way up towards Pietermaritzburg. That's a heavy queue that's pushing back into the Key Ridge area, and that broken down vehicle before KwaMashu Highway on the N2 South means a delay coming from Umhloti. The M4 from the airport down through towards Sabaya. The M41 from the Mount Edgecombe side through Gateway down towards the M4. There's a lot of pressure there. Motorists are trying to duck off that N2 queue wherever they can and just causing a secondary backlog. Cape Town, Baden-Powell, Sandy at Coastal Park, and I believe I'm just hearing it's closed at Monwabisi due to sand that side as well. And Francie Funsail, 35th Avenue, a crash causing delays on both routes into that junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 8 on this Monday, we are into the third hour of the morning brief here on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. It is great to be in your company this morning. Let me give you a sense of what is to come in the next hour. We'll tell you about two reports that have to do with two different aspects of finances. The first one, and money in general. The first one is the Banking Association of South Africa's 2024 report, which reveals that South African banks are falling short on transformation targets, particularly in as far as senior management roles are concerned. So it's got a mixed bag of results, does this, this new report from BASA. Basically, it talks about, for example, black economic ownership of banks having grown and exceeding expectations and reaching some 38% against a target initially of 25%. But while all of that is happening, representation of black South Africans at top and senior management level is a bit out of kilter and basically has not kept up with the targets that they set for themselves. So we'll have a conversation about that at about 25 past 8, and that's coming up then. Then a bit later on, we'll tell you about a report from Debt Busters, which basically says that consumers in this country have 42% less purchasing power than they did 9 years ago. So those are the two reports that I thought I should highlight that we will flag for you. But of course, we've had many conversations in the last 2 hours, and my key priority right now is to hear from you what you've made of those conversations, as well as other matters that may be exercising your mind. Give me a call. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The third hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Whether you're having a morning or a morning, you woke up like this or like this. Mornings love McDonald's. So, choose happy and enjoy a short filter coffee for only R14.90 at McDonald's. What's not to?
In the Arena is a docu-series that takes an in-depth look at the life and career of the legendary tennis player Serena Williams, offering a behind-the-scenes glimpse into her journey, both on and off the court. It explores her rise to tennis dominance, challenges, and personal experiences. Do not miss out on a great story of incredible impact. Catch In the Arena on Saturdays at 3 p.m. on SABC3. Alternatively, at 9 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturdays and Thursdays. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Outsurance has another random fact for you. In 1999, cooking oil cost about 4 Rand. Now it's about 37 Rand. Times have changed, but Outsurance could help you make ends meet with great car insurance savings. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754 to switch and save today. Let's hear how Lebo feels about saving 790 Rand a month on her 2023 Audi Q5.
I am very, very happy. I'm super happy. I can say go to Outsurance for you to be able to save more.
Heard about the Out bonus? After 3 consecutive years of not claiming, you'll get 10% of your paid premiums back in cash.
Assurance looks for a reason to pay, not for a reason not to pay.
Why would you want to be with anyone else? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, as I always say, you've heard our story. Let's hear yours. Let's speak to Bonagele in Khayelitsha. Good morning to you, Bonagele. You want to talk to me about the EFF and Mbuyiseni Ndlozi this morning?
Absolutely, Thulas. Yeah, you're quite right. You see, I was asking myself questions as to why now? Why George speaks now? But now, so realized as to why he's going to speak, so telling the truth as to what is going on. So with regard to Malema, so the fact that they were denying that he's a dictator, he's a real dictator now. So look at the way he was suspended. Constitution was not followed, because you listen to Malema as they were talking about those. No, EFF is not about those and all that. They don't want to entertain all that. Showing that he doesn't respect other members of that party. He thinks he owns that party. So all in all, I'm happy for him. At last, he resigned.
Yeah.
But I wish he mustn't join political parties now. He's a bright young man.
Yeah.
So he's educated. He must go and do other things.
Yeah, Bonagele, in fact, that's exactly what he has said. Thank you for that call, by the way. That's exactly what Mbuyiseni Ndlozi is saying, that he's taking a bit of a hiatus from the participation in party politics. I haven't listened to the full interview, but I did catch that aspect that says he's looking to sort of take a break from party politics. Let me take 1 or 2 voice notes before I go to the calls that have to do with AfriForum, solidarity, and the actions of Donald Trump.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. It seems as though AfriForum and Solidarity are regretting the decision that they made initially by going over to their masters there across the world to go and report the atrocities that are being perpetuated against them. I honestly believe that it is high time that they wake up, smell the coffee, and realize that nothing is going to come out of America. If they need to go there and be refugees, so be it. Thank you very much. Atam Polokwane.
All right, thank you for that. I don't know if I'm picking up regret, to be honest with you, from AfriForum and Solidarity. The core message I heard was that they are saying that the ANC's many race-based policies and problematic policies, according to them, have finally caught up with everyone, and the world, according to them, the world has set up and taken note. Yes, the issue of, Afrikaners moving en masse to the United States, that they do not welcome. But I don't know, I'm not sensing regret for them having gone over to the United States and other capitals of the world to raise issues about South Africa and governance in this country.
Thulasizwe Simelane, this is Mzwandile January in Port Elizabeth. I'm just interested to know, shouldn't there be a special inquiry to assess if the behaviors by AfriForum were not treasonous, including that of Musk? Surely there should be repercussions for such behavior, which means the country will forever be under threat by such minorities or this particular type of grouping.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you for that. And I wonder if there's any merit in terms of a public inquiry of some sort or a debate of some sort, as Parliament will do a bit later on with the death of the 14 soldiers in the DRC. We do have those platforms to be able to undertake that. As far as treason is concerned, as I saw that the MK party will be laying charges of treason. But the difficulty is that when you talk treason, you then, especially as a crime, as a crime in terms of our laws in this country, it's then defined in a particular technical way, and the behavior of the person you are accusing needs to match all of those definitional elements of the crime of treason. And I don't know to what extent what AfriForum has done and what Solidarity have done can fit into those technical definitions of the crime of treason. Let me take a call from Temba in Kempton Park. Good morning to you, Temba. You want to talk to me about who else? Donald Trump.
Yeah, I wanted to mention AfriForum and Solidarity.
Yes, please
they
go
are
ahead.
foolish, actually, in the true sense, because what they are doing to South Africa, of which they also belong, because all these sanctions are going also to hit them hard if they are going to include tariffs, or hit us with tariffs and stuff like that. Agriculture is our brothers, Afrikaner. And I want to say to the nation of South Africa, let's not hate Afrikaners. This is just a click. We've gone a long way as South African citizens, and we've come together a long way. I've got a lot of Afrikaner friends that don't, as you have heard, DA, all sorts of people are saying this is wrong. So, yes, let's hold on the deck. The ship will be, but we'll never allow white supremacy and the right wing to try and control South Africa. The president of South Africa should not talk to Afrikaner after doing this. They should talk to USA nicely, but
well, Temba, you're saying AfriForum or Afrikaners? I think the president should talk to Afrikaners. That's separate from talking to AfriForum.
Sorry, Afrikaners are South Africa. South Africa is not South Africa without Africans.
Temba, thank you for that. That's Temba in Kempton Park. Pumzile in Humansdorp, good morning. Also on the issue of AfriForum this morning.
Good morning, Thulas and the listeners. Thulas, the AfriForum and the Solidarity organizations are predominantly white civic organizations, so to speak. They represent the interest of the white people. It's totally disingenuous of them. On the other side, they claim to be South Africans, but they don't demonstrate patriotism on their own country, which they claim to be proud of. But this thing of AfriForum and Solidarity thing, it has not started now. If you remember, this thing started even during the time of Mmusi Maimane, representing the DA, frequenting overseas, particularly USA, to lobby support for what they claimed is suppression of the white community. Now, the point is, we don't have any place to run to, we, black Africans of this country. They are fortunate to be offered refugee status. Refugee status in which basis, right? And I will say lastly to you, Freedom Front and AfriForum, they are very opportunistic, and this boy, Elon Musk,
yes,
is a South African born in Pretoria. Now, he is a close ally of Trump. Trump, which is a right-wing president, so to speak, of USA. Now, they are using that opportunity to lobby against their own country.
All right, Pumzile, let's leave it there. Thank you for that. Just what you mentioned about the DA and under the leadership of Mmusi Maimane, I don't recall the exact details. I'm not sure to what extent they lobbied in the way that you described there, when Pumzile, but I take nothing from the point you are making, just putting that caution that I do not recall the exact details of those trips that you say happened under the leadership of Mmusi Maimane. Jacques in KZN, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about Donald Trump?
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Very well, how are you?
Always good. I think we all have different opinions about Donald Trump and what he's doing. But I think if we want to really be South African or African, whichever way you want to take it, we gotta bite the bullet and now accept what has happened, and either we're gonna make it going forward or not. I hear a lot of people crying in the background or crying and saying, no, you know what, it's AfriForum's problem, and it's a whole host of problems, not including that we are supporting Palestinians when the Americans support the Israelis. So I think with the representative of the United States not coming to the G20 and stating that he doesn't want to come because of his American interests in terms of the war with Palestine and Israel, I think that that's also a major factor that people are not taking into consideration.
Right.
And the other thing is whether AfriForum went there or not, and they complained or didn't complain, their stance at the moment currently cannot be denied, where they say they don't want a mass deportation of their people. So we can interpret it the way that we want to from our point of view.
Gotcha.
But their actions clearly state that they never had an intention of leaving South Africa to run away somewhere else.
Gotcha.
Because had they had that intention, they have already got that refugee status that they can obviously employ.
All right, Jacques, thank you for that. That's Jacques in KZN. Sipho in Kimberley, you also want to talk about Donald Trump, but also want to throw in the issue of tariffs this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. I wish I could have a poundless energy like you, my brother. You must give me an advice in that regard, you know.
I sleep a lot over the weekend and meditate.
Oh, you do?
And meditate
That's
so
nice.
that by the time the week starts. Please go ahead for me, Sipho.
No, thanks, my brother. Look, it is unfortunate and regrettable that Trump has decided to make himself our enemy based on baseless accusations that have no proof whatsoever. I think as a country we really need to, sort of look in better ways of trying to make sure that each and every cent that is spent by government, it's accounted for, and that we're able to make sure that those, the fact that we'll never have a funding from 5 U.S. as they would have withdrew through the Trump's executive order.
Yeah.
We must then have to make sure that we do whatever that we can, and that's where we are.
Yeah.
And we can't cry foul about it. It has happened. It's baseless that Trump would have made such an executive. No white people have been thrown out of the country. They're still here. There are processes to be followed.
Yeah.
And we just have to live with what we have. That's
Sipho,
it.
thank you for that. That's Sipho in Kimberley. Thank you for those calls and WhatsApp voice notes. We'll take a bit more a bit later on the show.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned. And almost 100,000 businesses trust OUTsurance.
We're in the security industry. Every month we save 1,488 Rand with OUTsurance. Just having made the switch from our previous service provider to OUTsurance has allowed us to put another vehicle onto our fleet.
For your business insurance, contact OUTsurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43328 for immediate cover, or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The Yellow Guys have a top-class plan to play elite rugby to remain in the top 5. But second-place Giants, the Red and Blacks are undoubtedly chasing the first position. This is the top 14. Clermont-Auvergne collides with Stade Thulasizwe on Sunday, 16 February at 10 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
26 minutes after 8 to this story now. A recent report released by the Banking Association of South Africa has found that there is slow progress in achieving diversity in top managerial positions in the sector. The 2024 Transformation Report has highlighted significant challenges in meeting key transformation goals within the sector. Let's welcome Bongiwe Gunene, who is the Managing Director of the Banking Association of South Africa. So when we say, Bongiwe, good morning to you. When we say there's a slow progress in the diversity and transformation, particularly in as far as management in the banking sector is concerned, what do we mean?
So let's start with the great news. The fact that we are evaluating 20 banks, 9 of those are at level 1 BE status. That represents 83% of industry assets. Now, going to the metric that look at management, there are 4 layers. There's junior, there's middle, there's senior, and then top level. Where we are not doing well is the last 2 levels, top senior and uppermost in terms of transformation. Now, it's a function, firstly, of time, because if you look at the bottom, we already have 90% of all managers being black. In the middle, you've also hit the target. And by the time you reach senior top level, you start to lag. Reason being, at those levels, when people get to be employed as top senior managers, they've already spent about 10 to 15 years in the industry. And you are looking at the dynamic of change that doesn't change on a year-to-year basis. But if you take a 5-year view, you then see that, no, it is changing.
Yeah.
Now, at CEO level, or let's call them the C-suite, again, because those are the people who would tend to have more than 15 years in the sector, you are beginning to see black people occupying those levels, but not at the level of change that we want.
Yeah. So, but the other aspect that you are highlighting is, as far as ownership of banks is concerned, there's some good news to report there.
Absolutely. In terms of the ownership, looking at the directors, so this is board level, you see that we now are standing at 48% board members being black. And you also see the access to sharing the profits of the banks. And this cuts both ways, profits and losses. You are seeing quite an upsurge in those numbers as well.
Yeah. In fact, I think the number that you cite is that black ownership in banks has exceeded expectations, reaching 38% against the target that initially was 25%.
The target was 25%, and it's at 38%.
So let me ask you then a broader question as a parting shot. Why does all of this matter? This report comes, at least it reaches us at a point where we are talking about what some are calling, quote-unquote, race-based policies. Why does transformation matter in the banking sector?
I would say it starts with the statement that South Africa belongs to all who work and live in it. So that's a foundational charter statement, but it's also an indication that banks see themselves as playing a role, not just facilitating the economy of South Africa, but also transforming. And that transformation has to start with them. And they are committed to that transformation.
All right, I've got to thank you for that. We've run out of time. I would have loved to have further conversations with you, but in fact, we will have a future opportunity, hopefully, to actually tease out other elements around the banking sector. That is Bongiwe Kunene, who is the Managing Director of the Banking Association of South Africa. Let's check in now with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the EFF has hit back at Elon Musk after he called for Julius Malema to be declared an international criminal. Musk wrote on X, formerly Twitter, that sanctions should also be imposed on Malema. The search and rescue operations for illegal miners trapped in a disused mine in Roodepoort in Western Johannesburg are set to resume this morning. It's not clear how many they are. There's also no clarity on the condition they are in. And political analyst Rui Shitende says the late former Namibian President Sem Nuyoma's influence had dwindled following the end of his term in 2005. He died on Saturday evening at the age of 95. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Breakdown on Joburg's M1 North this morning, just up before you get to Ravonia Road. That's why it stays pretty heavy for this time of morning on that run through from the Randburg side. Bit of traffic on the Mike 1 both ways around Melrose, and the crash on the N3 North at Spruitview still having an impact coming up from Phosphorus. The N14 is very heavy today. Krugersdorp Highway queuing up from the R55 Pretoria West exit into Brakfontein. North of Durban, it's a real mess. There's a crash around Sibaya. This is on the N2 coming from the airport, so a crash. And then that breakdown has been there since 6 o'clock this morning, before 6 o'clock. That's still there before Kormashu. So 2 big queues on the N2, and motorists are just trying to avoid that, causing equally big queues on the N4 from Mshloti down through Sibaya, down through Mshlanga, and down towards Virginia Airport. In the middle of all that, Mshlanga Rocks Drive is obviously a little bit busier than normal. Breakdown, Cliffdale area, up towards Hammersdale. If you're on your way to Pietermaritzburg, big queues behind that in the rain as well, pushing traffic all the way back through to Key Ridge territory. And busy in Cape Town coming out of Tableview this morning. Marine Drive, still slow to Racecourse Road. Kuberg Road, very unusually slow, coming from the refinery down to Montague Drive. And the N7 is fairly heavy from Plattercliff Road through Bosmansdam Road down to the N1 Highway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you once again. So live cricket action on the go, and it's taking place at the Gaddafi Stadium.
At the Gaddafi Stadium in Lahore, Pakistan. Yeah, that's right. Named after one of our African leaders. So let's bring you the action. We've got Matthew Breetzka holding the line there. So incredible stuff for the Proteas. And I must admit that we stand on currently, and this is like moving day for us, 136 for the loss of 3 wickets. And this after 27.5 overs. It's the one-off ODI against New Zealand. Matthew Breetzka anchoring the innings with, I think, 58 of 82 balls. The Proteas have faced setbacks. Captain Temba Bavuma dismissed for 20, with Yanaman Smith contributing 41 before being run out by Mitchell Santner. Kyle Vereen just couldn't make an impact. He fell for just 1 run. And then there's Vian Mulder, who's currently at the crease. He's on 2 after 8 balls being bowled to him. So the Proteas are maintaining a run rate of 5, but the Black Caps have got their spinners, Santner and Bracewell, making sure they keep things tight. So let's hope that the Proteas can build on this foundation and set a competitive target. Let's go to the PSL. They're facing a major headache with Royal AM's ongoing legal and financial troubles. The club owes SARS 40 million rand and its games remain suspended. With the Nedbank Cup resuming this weekend, the league must decide how to handle their fixture against Milford FC, which will determine Sekhukhune United's next opponent. Now, to make matters worse, Royal AM players have stopped training, and that's due to unpaid salaries. Legal expert Manda Shabalala warns the situation isn't straightforward and the PSL may be forced into unprecedented action.
There is a third party that is in charge of Royal AM, which is a curator appointed by SARS. Remember, the club is an asset, and the owners are owing SARS. So SARS attaches so that they recover their money. Now, the dilemma that the NFL is facing is there is a commitment that they make to the sponsors that in the PSL, for example, we want to give you so many games to televise. When I'm referring to sponsors, I'm specifically referring to the TV rights, so broadcasting. So there's so many matches that we are giving to you to broadcast. Now, if you don't fulfill that obligation, now it could easily be a breach of contract.
Yesterday, SuperSport United secured a 1-1 draw against Sekhukhune United. That was Betway Premiership action at Old Peter Mokaba Stadium. Elsewhere, Wolves, they cruised into the FA Cup 5th round. 2 goals in the space of 39 seconds, sealing a 2-0 win over Blackburn. Plymouth Argyle causing a major upset in the FA Cup. They had a 1-0 win against Arne Slot's Liverpool, and that's ending Liverpool's hopes of securing the trophy for an 8th time. And Barcelona coach Hansi Flick revealing that he rewarded his players with 3 days off following the important 4-1 La Liga victory against Sevilla. And that was yesterday. The Catalans are now 2 points behind leaders Madrid and 1 point behind Atletico following their draw in the Madrid derby yesterday. And UFC middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis says his win against Sean Strickland stamps his authority in the division. The South African beat his American challenger and former title holder on points after 5 rounds at the Kudos Bank Arena in Australia.
I can submit the best in the world, a guy that's never been submitted. I can go out there and knock people out, and I can go out there and outpoint a guy that outpoints anybody and do it over 5 rounds. That was a big win for me tonight, and it was a big performance. To stay calm, when I got his nose, I didn't stay that calm, but that was just me smelling blood. But I got back to where I needed to be, and it was an incredible performance. It felt great.
Well, from first to more finesse, that sporting finesse that comes up around 12:30 with John Herika. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ndauling Lechela. Tell me about RCL forecasting higher earnings, Ndauling. I may be wrong, and if I am, I apologize. Weren't they in a bit of a spot of bother a few years ago?
They were, and then we started seeing them actually selling some of their businesses. So, for example, in the last year or so, they sold their frozen logistics business, Vector Logistics. And then last year, we saw them unbundling Rainbow Chicken. So they've received proceeds from that as well, which are some of the reasons why they are forecasting upbeat profit growth over the half-year period. So they're pegging profit growth of over 30%. The owner of brands such as Yum Yum, Peanut Butter, and Oma Rusks says the improved performance comes as its baking, groceries, and sugar businesses delivered upbeat results. RCL Foods has, of course, undergone significant corporate activity in recent times. As I mentioned, the sale of Vector Logistics as well as the unbundling of Rainbow Chicken, and those contributions also just working in their benefit. Now, the company further attributed its improved performance to its focus on optimizing its sales mix, as well as the absence of load shedding and lower input costs. RCL Foods also benefited from a partial recovery of the additional levy raised by the South African Sugar Association in its 2023 financial year. The sugar industry has been a big contributor to RCL's performance, and with that unit, they've also seen continued growth on that front.
And in as far as the mining sector is concerned, all that glitters is gold for Goldfields.
That's right. Gold miner expecting to report higher full-year earnings, driven, of course, by that higher yellow metal price and strong performance across all its operations. Now, the company's headline earnings per share expected to rise by up to 47%, and Goldfields' attributable gold production for the 2024 financial year is expected to be just over 2 million ounces, in line with the company's revised guidance. Now, the Salares Norte mine in Chile, which recommenced operations in September last year, delivered gold equivalent production of 45,000 ounces, meeting the company's revised guidance. Now, this boosting overall production. On the cost side, the company's all-in costs for the year are expected to be within the guided range of $1,820 to $1,910 per ounce, while all-in sustaining costs are also expected to be within the guided range. A slight cause of concern, though, as these costs are 26% higher, mainly due to a decrease in gold sold by the miner, higher sustaining capital expenditure, and increased royalties and operating costs.
Lastly, Ndauling, what kind of a trading day can we look forward to on this Monday?
Well, the JSE might pass some of last week's gains following talks of a 25% tariff on steel and aluminium imports. In company news, traders will be waking up to an update from Telkom. And then looking at the currency scene, the rand really steady this morning against major currencies, not making much moves. It's sitting at 18.52 to the dollar. Stateside, futures are in the green, reversing last week's losses on that front and suggesting a positive start to the week. Lastly, in Asia, stocks on track to end the day mixed as investors sift through Trump's trade calls and digest China's latest inflation print.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauleng Lechela. She's kept you updated on business, the economy, and the markets over the last 3 hours.
It's time to shine for young athletes across South Africa. From thrilling football and rugby matches to intense netball games. Experience the passion and prowess of Mzansi's finest young sports stars. Super Sports Schools and SABC Plus bring you the specially curated channel dedicated entirely to school and youth sports. Join us as we celebrate their achievements and bring the excitement right to your screens. This is your chance to support the future of South African sports. The Super Sports Schools channel on SABC Plus, where every game is a home game. Don't miss a moment. Download the SABC Plus app today. Available on iOS, Google, and Smart TV. Or visit sabc-plus.com to start streaming. Super Sports Schools on SABC Plus. All the sport you care about most. Now streaming wherever you are.
Time. When you're a kid, it moves slower than a sloth trying to get through airport security. There is just so much of it. Skip forward a few years to your 20s. Time is still your friend. It says have some balance. Go party and have fun. Then your 30s hit. And time suddenly steps on the accelerator like it's trying to catch a traffic light before it goes red. 40s. Now time is moving faster than your 10-year-old on a sugar high. 50. You're desperately trying to save as much as you can, but time is moving so fast. And all you can think is, where did all the time go? That's why after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money, and then money gives you more time for some much-deserved you time. Now, isn't that a compelling enough reason to invest? Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
17 minutes to 9. A recent report from debt management company Debt Busters has found that consumers have 42% less purchasing power than they did 9 years ago. The report says this is largely due to salary increases not keeping pace with the soaring cost of living. Let's speak to Benay Sega, who is the executive head of Debt Busters. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. So why is it that we find ourselves in 2025 having 42% less disposable income compared to 2016?
Thank you for having me on the show, and it's a difficult topic for Monday morning.
We wouldn't have it any other way. We confront
yes,
these
exactly.
issues. Yeah.
So while we're on Monday, let's hit it. I think we're all feeling it, and reality is that over the last, as you said, 9 years, I think two things in particular made it really expensive for us. One is that our salaries haven't grown as quickly as they used to. 10 years prior. And second thing is, in particular, petrol and electricity prices have grown so much. And both of those are very important input costs to everything that we do, everything that we eat, everything that we buy, that I think we're really feeling the pinch. I mean, those are the two primary reasons why it feels like, and it probably is like, that we are 40-odd% poorer when it comes to our disposable incomes.
So while our salaries are not growing at a significant pace compared to perhaps the previous decade, inflation itself is soaring.
Absolutely. And I think there's also one more factor. I think COVID was a big, in a negative way, a big game changer, particularly for salary growth. I think a lot of people's salary growth really, really slowed down, and many of us had to take pay cuts, as you recall, significant pay cuts, particularly those in retail and hospitality industries for a long period of time. But we also need to recognize that we need the economy to grow for our young people also. It's not just those who are with salary, but also those without salaries. Our young people, the growth of the 18-year-olds going into the workplace is far quicker than the growth in the economy. And I think that's also one more thing we need to sort out in the next few years.
So the result then, Benay, from the work that you've done as Debt Busters, what is the result in as far as people and their coping mechanisms and their ability to balance their budgets? What mechanisms are we turning to?
Well, so our business is a debt management business. One of the things that we want to bring transparency and visibility to is portray the situation of the South African consumer as they seek debt management advice. And I think that's why we published this report. What we are finding is, particularly for those who have borrowed from multiple lenders or multiple banks, we're finding that debt counseling is the best solution to actually take a look at how much, how you can repay back the debts and restructure it over a longer period of time. I think the number one difficulty for those who have borrowed money, the number one difficulty they are facing is inability to repay back all the debts every month because of the situation we just discussed. And I think for those, what we're finding is increasingly they need to firstly understand how much of their take-home pay is going to debt repayments. So I think it's important to see that online for free for yourself on debtbusters.co.za. But then if there is a problem, talk to someone who's qualified to help you restructure these debts. Because in the long term, I think if you wait one more day, nothing is going to change. But actually the situation will probably worsen.
And in fact, to add color to what you're saying, you as a team monitor what you call the debt to income ratio. And you are saying that it has reached alarming levels, particularly manifest among higher income earners, which is a bit of a, it's not what you'd expect, is it?
It's exactly correct. It is not what you would expect, because on the outside you think high-income earners, they are shielded away from any shocks that it might happen. But particularly for those, what happened is, again, going back to the pandemic, a lot of people lost jobs, and a lot of families had to support multiple number of generations. And as a result, those high-income earners who were able to retain their jobs became the fewer and fewer who was able to borrow money. And I think what we've seen is they've also borrowed money on behalf of others to support a broader range of individuals. And I think as a result, their debt-to-income ratios are not looking as good as, let's say, a few years ago. And I think they're under huge strain. And as you say, not something you would expect until you look under you open the book and look at the detail. I think it's a bit of a different story.
Yeah, but we're not entirely helpless, are we, Benay? Talk to me about better debt management tools, including how technology can be harnessed to help with debt management.
Yeah, we definitely are not. And I think last week has been, as South Africans, it's been a tough week internationally, if you recall all the noise about what's happening. I think one thing we mustn't forget is our National Credit Act and what we provided for called debt counseling is actually the best in the world. I'm not saying that because, I feel patriotic. I'm saying that because we've actually done the benchmarking. What we find is that the cost to the consumers in the South African system compared to many others like the UK or the USA is far less in terms of restructuring your debt. But also, what lenders get back is far higher than before. We actually have a fantastic system for those who are struggling to repay back the debt if they need the help. But before that, as you say, first step, we always tell people, find whatever's freely available to you and use it. On our website, we developed a number of tools that show people what percent of their take-home pay is going to debt repayments. What does their debt score look like, which is different than a credit score? And we want people to engage with these tools for free and actually get to terms with what their financial situation is. And then they can seek out the appropriate solution. So it takes a bit of effort, but I think if we can do it on our own time, and we've actually seen more than 1 million users actually do this over the last year. Yeah. Let's just all do it in our own time and actually figure out what our debt situation is before we kind of figure out what to do next.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that. That's Benay Sega, who is the executive head of Debt Busters.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's been a busy run-in through Spruitview this morning. The earlier crash at Heidelberg Road is now clear, and all that traffic that was backlogging has made its way through. A bit of traffic around Sandton today. William Mandela down to Republic Road, Sandton Drive down towards Sandton City, Rivonia Road inbound to Morningside, and Greystone coming off the highway. Just a lot of traffic into Sandton. The N1 North, a breakdown before Rivonia. Traffic remains heavy coming through from Randburg. And the Pretoria situation, we had some heavy backlogging this morning on that N14, the Krugersdorp Highway, heading up towards Brakfontein. That is also cleared as well. King Shaka International Airport down to central Durban, really quite heavy backlogs. A broken down vehicle on the N2 before Kwamashu, that remains heavy from Sibaya, and a lot of motorists have moved over to the M4. So from Umhloti to Sibaya, that's a heavy queue, and then from Umhlanga down to Virginia Airport, that's quite heavy. The M41 from Gateway coming into that M4, Ruth First Highway is also quite badly backed up. Stationary truck around Cliffdale in the roadworks, one lane open, big queues down the Key Ridge back towards Shongweni territory, and Cape Town stays busy out of Tableview this morning. Marine Drive to Racecourse Road and Kuberg Road heading down to Montague Drive, very busy. Stellenbosch University opens today. Stellenbosch is a traffic mess. UWC opening today as well, so routes like Robert Sobukwe and Symphony Way around the campus there. Belleville South area also noticeably busier. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Don't forget to catch the exclusive interview that the SABC News political editor Mzwandile Mbeche has conducted with the former EFF MP Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. It actually played a bit earlier on Morning Live, but it will be across all platforms on SABC News. So look out for it. In fact, a few of you have already seen it or seen snippets of it and are reflecting on it. Let me take this voice note that has to do with that.
Morning, Chulas. It's Chris in Capital. You know, it is not surprising what is being intimated by Ndlozi. Julius has learned from the best, i.e. Jacob Zuma. He is repeating the script that Jacob used against to President Thabo Mbeki. So therefore, it should not come as a surprise. That's what he does, and he has learned from the best.
That's Chris in Camperdown. Thank you for that, Chris. And I think perhaps you are alluding to Ndlozi saying in that interview that he was confronted with what the leadership, according to him, called an intelligence report that basically said that he is one of those people who are working with the MK party and looking forward to having an opportune moment to announce their departure from the EFF. That's one of the reasons that Ndlozi cites in the interview for why he was suspended 6 weeks before the National People's Assembly of the EFF. Let's take this one. It has to do with the issues of land in this country.
Good morning to Thulasizwe and the listeners. I heard your heading of with Kali Kriel that there have been no seizures. I dispute that. Here in Thornville, on the way into Maritzburg, between Richmond and Maritzburg, there's community members that took over some farms belonging to Indian gentlemen, and they're still fighting them in court without any help from anyone. So I very much dispute that, and I'm sure elsewhere in the country the same has happened.
Sure, fair enough. I take the point you're making. But here's the thing. Within what you just said, you're saying they're still fighting it in the courts. That's one thing. So there is an avenue for redress when there's been a violation of private property. And I know it can get frustrating, but we have precedent in this country. In fact, part of the irony that I noticed in that briefing by by AfriForum and Solidarity yesterday was that the case they mentioned, I think it's Ackerland in Limpopo, where there had been an improper expropriation. It was stopped dead in its tracks by those courts that actually function, that actually work. Lastly, let me mention that one of the leading cases, I think it's in the area of administrative law, has to do with a farmer who had his land taken over by ordinary people. And that's different, by the way, from expropriation. Expropriation is by a public authority, not people moving onto your land. But in any case, these communities had moved onto that land. And in the end, the court actually ordered that this man's rights to adjust administrative action had been violated, and the South African government had to make right by him. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is this expropriation without compensation is simply not reality in this country. It may take long for you to get reprieve and redress for your rights that are violated, but there are many ample examples that it can and it does get redressed on a daily basis. Let me take a few calls. One from Mulatelo in Limpopo. Good morning to you, Mulatelo. You want to talk to me about Mbuyiseni Ndlozi this morning?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, but please, can I just need and leave that topic and get to this one?
Go ahead, Mulatelo. Talk to me.
Yeah, this thing of Agri-Forum, these people, they are setting us very, very, very back. The miles that we walk for reconciliation, they just destroyed in a very, very, very short time of a period. This country will be in a very, very chaos. That, we tried by all means as black people not to be pushed to some extent. We all know Trump is a racist leader. Now they join Trump because Trump is exercising the racist policy. Meaning that they wanted to bring the South Africa back to apartheid. Who can allow that? What they're trying to do is very, very, very dangerous. Very dangerous.
Yeah. All right.
There will be a civil war in this country. They must think twice about what they're doing.
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully we don't get to that. That's Mulatelo in Limpopo. Hopefully we don't get to a situation that it describes as civil war, because the critical mass of South Africans, black and white, know what the project is, what the South African project is. We will not be defined by Donald Trump. We simply refuse. Lerotodi in Soweto. Good morning to you.
Peter.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Peter. Yeah, no, what I can say about Donald Trump, no, he's spot on. Because we are black South African, we don't like truth. I don't know why when we talk about racism, we talk about racism only one side. When Julius Malema singing the song, say, should the boer kill the farm, it's allowed, everybody's silent, is quiet about it. So
Pause for me for a moment, Lerotodi. You're saying everyone is silent, is quiet about it. Is that true, though?
Yes.
About Julius singing that song that you're saying. Let me challenge you. Is that true, though, that everybody is silent? Wasn't Julius Malema taken to the Equality Court over that? Didn't the South African Human Rights Commission investigate that? Is that silence?
It's always no solution, because Julius Malema, and his political party, they always continue to be racist. Look now, when Springbok arrived in South Africa, then they stand in the parliament saying a human being, it was only Siakolis. The white players that was be discriminated and being attacked by EFF. In 2020, 60 white farmers have been killed on their farm, killed by EFF. No.
Ratod, killed by EFF. What evidence do you have for that?
Every white murder, the hitman hired by EFF.
All right. No, I simply reject that out of hand completely. Lerotodi in Soweto. Thank you for that. Lizo in Kabeja. Good morning to you. Talk to me about Trump and the EFF.
Good morning to us and your listeners. Man, I am a bit taken away by what Lerotodi was saying.
Yeah.
He's talking lies. He's talking utter lies.
Yeah.
Thanks for not attacking him, but attending to him.
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing. Knowing for a fact that the bigger majority of the white people, I'm assuming, I don't have stats, I don't have facts, but I judge by the reaction. I would expect the government not to leave this thing lying down the way it is. I would hope that the government will sort of air a documentary to just re-emphasize the current situation that we have when it comes to land ownership. Just saying it by the stats, I think they say 70% of the land is still owned by white people.
Yes.
I would so wish that we don't leave this thing hanging like the way it is.
Yeah.
Americans need to be made aware, or even the rest of the world, of what is currently happening.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, I was driving by Alexandria with my grandfather. He showed me a piece of land where they used to be and how they were chased away. I'm coming from PE or Kabeja. How they were chased away by the then apartheid government. He showed me some years back some documentation that we should have used to go and claim the land. You know what? We failed. We couldn't go and get the land to be properly claimed according to what the government proposed. All in all, what I'm trying to say, we've got more tears and sad hearts by what the apartheid government did to us than the lies that are spread. It's not true what they say. Thank you very
Lizo,
much.
thank you for that. That's Lizo there on the road. Lizo from Kabeja. Thank you for that. And that's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you for listening and thank you for your engagement. The Talking Point with Kathy Mutlatlana is up next here on SAFM, coming up after the news.
In our top stories, the EFF hits back over international criminal remark and a fire at Nyanga taxi rank on the Cape Flats. Good morning. The EFF has hit back at Elon Musk after he called for Julius Malema to be declared an international criminal. Musk wrote on X, formerly Twitter, that sanctions should also be imposed on Malema. In the past week, some U.S. officials have accused South Africa of pushing an anti-white agenda following President Cyril Ramaphosa's signing of the expropriation bill into law. The U.S. plans to impose a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminium imports, a move which could also severely affect South Africa. The EFF's national spokesperson, Sinau Tambo.
The EFF and all people who have been at the yoke of oppression perpetuated by the USA and its allies are bound to naturally be the quintessential enemies of billionaires who capture states and manipulate narratives and misuse their control of governments to cast aspersions against their natural enemies. The EFF takes this opportunity to tell Elon Musk and all of his allies in the USA, in Israel, the right-wing groups in South Africa, which have mobilized Musk to collectively go to hell. The principle remains that equality in South Africa is rooted in the return of the land to South African people, and this will be achieved through expropriation without compensation.
Former EFF spokesperson and Member of Parliament Dr. Simelane says he does not plan to join the Thulasizwe party. Ndlozi has finally broken his silence after months of speculation that he would leave the EFF. He has since confirmed his departure from the party. Ndlozi says he was not allowed to attend the party's National People's Congress in December last year because he was suspended after being accused of working for the Thulasizwe party.
We can all agree these are very serious allegations that one had betrayed the revolution, had been disloyal, and that indeed you are a double agent of some sort. Of course, I can state categorically now that I never planned to join the MKP. I still don't. I never worked with anybody in the MKP in relation to some conspiracy about my departure. And I think that whatever information they say they have was based largely on lies.
The search and rescue operation for illegal miners trapped in a disused mine in Roodepoort in Western Johannesburg has resumed this morning. It's not clear how many illegal miners are trapped or the condition they are in. Asina Gori reports.
Last night, we were told at about 6 p.m. that the operations were halted due to security reasons, but this morning, as of 8 a.m., operations have begun once again. The emergency services as well as police have begun coming onto site at this time, and what we're hoping to find out this morning is how many of the illegal miners are stuck underground. Yesterday, they didn't have an exact number yet, but what they did understand was that there was no injuries.
13 minibus taxis have been damaged in a fire which swept through the Nyanga taxi rank on the Cape Flats last night. Fire and rescue spokesperson Jermaine Carlson says crews found multiple vehicles alight when they arrived at the scene. He says the blaze has been extinguished. Carlson says 4 Sprinter buses and a civilian vehicle were also damaged in the incident. He says no injuries have been reported and the cause of the fire is being investigated. Political analyst Rui Shitende says the late former Namibian President Sam Nuyoma's influence had dwindled following the end of his term in 2005. He He died on Saturday evening at the age of 95. He had led Namibia to independence from South Africa in 1990 and became the country's first democratically elected president. Nujoma also co-founded the Southwest Africa People's Organization, SWAPO, in 1960. Shitende says, like South Africa's ANC, Namibia's governing party, SWAPO, has lost voter confidence.
After the second term of former President Pohamba, his influence dissipated over time because there were now new forces that have emerged, the likes of the late President Hage Geingob, the likes of Hidipo Hamutenya, but still that influence was not as strong as it used to be shortly after he stepped down as state president as well as president of the party. As we speak, SWAPO is in the political intensive care unit, just like the ANC of South Africa as former liberation movements that turned into government, for the fundamental reasons that they've been neglecting the material conditions of people.
Recapping the top story, the EFF is hit back at Elon Musk after he called for Julius Malema to be declared an international criminal. Musk wrote on X, formerly Twitter, that sanctions should also be imposed on Malema. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned. And almost 100,000 businesses trust OutSurance.
We're a sealing and partition company. I like OutSurance. They have that personal touch. In addition to the great service they give me, they've also saved me and my company 3,266 rand per month. Guys, make that call. It's well worth it.
For your business insurance, contact OutSurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43328 for immediate cover. Or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The Yellow Guys have a top-class plan to play elite rugby to remain in the top 5. But second-place Giants, the Red and Blacks are undoubtedly chasing the first position. This is the top 14. Clermont-Auvergne collides with Stade Thulasizwe on Sunday, 16 February at 10 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game, the whispers in the morning as I look in your.
This February, the month of love and self-care. At SAFM, we're celebrating with you, spreading love to all. Let's embrace kindness, connection, and self-care. And as always, SAFM will continue leading the conversations that move us through love, wellness, and everything in between. This month, let's love ourselves, love each other, and keep the conversation going. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
'Cause I'm your lady, and you are my man.
These are the weekend shows on SAFM. Music of Africa with Sheila Ndikumana. The Jet Set Breakfast with Michelle Constant. Seasons with Khomotso KG Mweketsi. The Soundtrack of Your Life with Ernest Pillay. Weekend Sound Downer Classics with Kutlwano Masote. Spotlight with Zai Khan. The Weekend with John Gerika. Rhythm of Africa with Sheila Ndikumana. This is SAFM, the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
In terms of the ANC's response to what Donald Trump said, a lot of your thoughts around the response has been less to Trump but more to AfriForum. Why so?
Because we know, and I'm sure you also know, that they have traveled to the U.S. in particular to speak about this very issue that Donald Trump is responding to. That's not being the first time that they had done so. We are responding to them in the main because they are South African. We should be able to work with each other in finding solutions to the South African problem.
Lindiwe Zulu, the ANC National Executive Committee member.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. Missed it? Find the podcast at safm.co.za. Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
I could be a girl who finds herself a knight in shining armor, but my financial status is horror. I owe everywhere. Do I then sit? Do I preempt what my situation is like? I mean, is it that important that we talk about our debts?
It's really, really important, especially if you're going to go into a committed relationship where you potentially might move in together or you might get married. I think we know, and I think in a lot of ways, that financial issues are one of the biggest reasons why relationships break.
Queen Malobane is our provincial general manager at Metropolitan.
The Chill Zone with Bertha Charuma. Missed it? Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends. You need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
When leaders need to account, we call on them. When society needs to debate, reflect, and advance, we're here to have the conversation. Join me, Oliver Dixon, on Night Talk every Monday to Thursday from 10 to 12 midnight.
The whispers in the morning as I look in your
This February, the month of love and self-care, at SAFM we're celebrating with you, spreading love to all. Let's embrace kindness, connection, and self-care. And as always, SAFM will continue leading the conversations that move us through love, wellness, and everything in between. This month, let's love ourselves, love each other, and keep the conversation going. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
'Cause I'm your lady and you are my man.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
I can't imagine that you've not faced the pushback that says you are only taking these actions because Vanuatu is an Afrikaans language-based operation in the context of, what we've come to know now from Donald Trump and others, that South Africans are, quote-unquote, doing very bad things.
If Vanuatu was a Xhosa speaking only or Zulu speaking only or English speaking only, if they don't have permits and they're on the road, we take exception to that when our drivers are being punished and hammered day in, day out for not having permits. So the Afrikaans issue will be ventilated in the courts when it comes to human rights violations and issues. We have an interest in that. We definitely want to know the outcome.
That's Ayanda Ali, who is a Build One South Africa.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM. Missed it? Find the podcast at safm.co.za. The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
We were able to train our combatants, the People's Liberation Army Namibia, Brand Swap Military Wing. We were able to attack the enemy and defeat the enemy at the battlefront. But still, the apartheid regime of South Africa still struggling. So the United Nations Committee on Namibia was involved and tried to find the ways and means for us to to negotiate for our independence. But the first meeting, they proposed that we should meet in the Windhoek. And then we say, no, we can't meet in the Windhoek because it's possible they will arrest us. We can go and meet in Pretoria. We say no. Then a proposal was made by the UN to meet in Geneva. So we met in Geneva, and under, of course, the chairmanship of the UN. We flew from Rwanda, Angola, to Paris, via Paris to Geneva. When we arrived in Geneva, we were received by the United Nations at Committee on Southwest Africa, on Namibia at the time. Now I saw a South African delegation set already where there are microphones. I just went and catch this boa, threw him on the ground, and I sat down. And I say Namibia is our country. It cannot be represented by foreigners or oppressors who are oppressing our people. So I make my statement, and then after completing my statement, the swap of women in the country who were around today also say, really, they are all material.
And that was the late Dr. Sam Nujoma, long-term leader of Namibia's Southwest Africa People's Organization, SWAPO. He became Namibia's first democratically elected president after years of liberation war of independence against apartheid South Africa, and condolences continue to pour in for him this morning after he passed away on Saturday at the age of 95. By now, many of you would have seen the news of his death, and we continue then to reflect on his life, his contribution, not only for the Namibian people, but also for the struggle that was waged in this country against apartheid South Africa, of which he was such an integral part. You're listening to The Talking Point. A very good morning to you. No, I am not sitting in our beautiful